Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming to tonight's workshop meeting on the budget. We welcome you. We welcome those at home. May we start the session with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please and thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quick introductions: David Haas, Frank Zizi, Jim Butler, Ian Silverman, and we have Katie Powers, Betsy, Sue, DJ, and Chuck. Okay, this is a draft budget based on requests that we've received from the various departments for review. Go to the individual district. Okay. Excuse me, Betsy.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's putting it on you. Is there anything you want to say first?
No.
No. Okay. I had person, we're just asking. Okay. If we can proceed to page 3, general townwide fund appropriation, general government support. Under the 2025 tentative budget for town board, there was a 2% increase
I'm sorry,
proposed.
Tom, there is something I want to say since you're going to start with page 3.
I'm sorry, please.
Can I finish? So this budget that you have is based on the department requests that were received plus any edits that Tom made to the document. So that's what this reflects, and it shows, if you looked at page 1 and 2, it reflects an increase in the tax rate from last year based on these numbers. So just to know that in advance, that it would require an increase to the tax rate and or fund balance money to bring the tax rate down. So just keep that in mind as you're going through considering the department requests that came in. And the initial salary increases were put in as 2% as a starting point. There is a supporting document that shows if it was 1%, 1.5%, or 2%, if you wanted to reduce that. So in general, it's 2% salaries across the board, except if any of the departments requested higher amounts. That's in here and highlighted in yellow, and increases are highlighted in yellow, just to bring that to your attention.
Since you brought that up, can I ask you, if we brought the tax rate down so it's exactly the same as last year or this year, how much from the fund balance would have to be contributed
It's
to
about
offset it?
550,000, 560,000.
Really?
Yeah. So that incorporates all of the, like I said, all of the department requests, which were increases from last year. There were minimal decreases in categories, and revenue, a lot, some of the revenue streams were also decreased. So between those two factors, it represents roughly 550 to 560 that would need to be recovered either in the tax rate or in the fund balance. And I think last year there was maybe, I have last year's document, but it was probably between 200 or 300,000 that was taken from the fund balance to offset that.
Revenue estimates have decreased. Is there a reason for that?
On different categories. Tom probably is more familiar with that. He put in a lot of the revenue numbers. I think like the biggest things are the sales tax revenue. And
Sales tax revenue, I may have given you incorrect information last one. Sales tax revenue actually has increased because we have, so far this year, we've brought in about $550,000 on sales tax. But I figured an increase of 70,000, 570,000 on the sales tax revenue.
Have you talked to anybody at the county to get a sense of what's going to happen? Because they can, what their projections are?
I have not talked to anybody about that. I've just tried to read through the reports.
Okay.
I can do that tomorrow.
So if we're going to talk about the fund balance, have all the expenditures and deposits been cross-referenced in QuickBooks to know that they've been entered, let's say, because there was an issue with that? Katie?
The expenses have been entered. The deposits I'm going through, but it's looking okay.
So we're not there quite yet.
Quite yet, but all the expenses I've gone through all the way through September through January, and gone through the statements and gone through and.
And right now, the town has like 18 bank accounts open. Of those, only 2 have 0 balances. Have the bank accounts been reconciled?
No, I have not reconciled bank accounts.
So we don't really know where we are with the fund balance. And DJ, we haven't heard about the union contract yet for how much they're asking or what that might increase.
I have not heard of a meeting scheduled with the town yet, unless Tom knows differently.
I was trying to get, I have an informal meeting with Andy tomorrow morning, finally, and just an introduction meeting. And then I asked him in an email today what days that he has available to sit down and talk seriously about it. And I have not gotten a reply about it yet.
Since we didn't have that at the point of putting this together, we put it in at 2% to have a number in there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the number I put in for payroll was just with the longevities. It didn't have a 1%, 2%, 3% for any of the guys.
Because right, because you had the little note about the union contract. The other thing I wanted to ask was about Lindsay. I know like the last time that we talked about the hourly versus like the stipend, that we thought like that she could have a lump sum payment, but you disagreed because of retirement. So can we change her midstream before the end of the year to get that difference in money issued?
So my understanding for the state purposes, an individual either has to be salary or hourly. That can change middle of the year. They just can't be both at any given time. So they cannot be hourly and then give them a lump sum or a stipend like that has happened in the past. Because then we have to convert that lump amount into hours and the individual didn't work those hours.
Yeah.
So that's why it has to be one or the other. She'd have to either work those hours to get the money or increase her hourly rate to be able to provide her additional funds, like per hour that she is going to work now at the end of the year. Or the other option would be to convert her to a salary employee. And then it would be a lump sum for certain duties that she would perform.
And as that deputy clerk, is there a reason why she couldn't be salaried? Does that have to be an hourly position for? So we could do a resolution to change her to
I think
salary.
I think that would, given
Be the
her
easiest.
duties for the deputy clerk, I think that would clearly satisfy that. The other I think the issue with that's gonna be she also does water and
Right.
tax collector and all that,
Yep.
so would you be, like, then you have to do a salary for each, because then she'd still be salary for
Yeah.
that position, hourly for the other. You'd need to, I think, make the whole thing, not like one salary amount, just like
Right.
you do for the other salary
Break-
employees.
Break it
like-
out into those departments.
Right, into a salary amount for each job function. So then if she were to stop doing that function at any point, then she'd still be getting like maybe the deputy town clerk
Right,
amount. And then that would be salary, but then she would be salary across the board.
and I think that would be easier, right, to do it that way.
I think that's, right, that's definitely an option, and then, right, so whatever, and you could change her midstream, so whether, right, if that decision happens, she doesn't have to wait till the next year, the next budget, that can happen now, but we've only allotted so much for this year's budget. So you could determine whatever that amount is for this year, total up, what,
Right, what she's already been paid, and then,
that's the balance, right, what we budgeted for all of those categories.
Right.
Right, she has basically three functions, so those three areas, and then say that's her salary for 2024, less what she's already paid, and then we would pay out an even amount for the rest of the year, and then decide what her salary would be.
for next
Just
year.
wanted to leave it out of the way,
Yeah,
so
that
that
budget. Right.
And then we report her as a then we report her as a salary.
From then on.
Going forward.
Thank you, Mitch. Can I just go back to the, on page 14, is that the revenues? Or the- So it looks like the revenues are up, and then when I look at it in detail, I see that our real property taxes went up from 131,000 to 240,000, or 3,000, is that?
That is based, that's tentative based on the requests that we have, unless we make some adjustments.
No,
I don't understand
that's
that.
real property taxes,
First line, right up here.
real property tax revenue.
It's 24 adopted budget's 131,098. The tentative is 243,000.
That's a tentative number based upon if everything is approved as far as
I'm just-
requests. That would be
Approved meaning tax increase.
that,
Real property taxes is property tax on homeowners.
right, okay.
How is that gonna jump by almost 50, well,
$100,000.
100% 1 year?
Because of the request levels that had come in.
Request levels for what?
Yeah, but that's expenditures.
It's actually, it's the reports that come from the assessor's office. So this is a report we received from Michelle, so I could verify what that is. So I took it's the total assessed value for the town divided by 1,000, because you pay the tax rate by 1,000, less the exemptions, because the town gives out exemptions. So that money doesn't come in as tax revenue. And then that's the formula that goes into the spreadsheet. So I can verify that, but that's just the total. that we
Because
received.
it's 100% increase, which
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
And like 23 to 24, it seems to have gone up a little bit.
So
24.
there were issues with the spreadsheet last year, if you recall. Some of the formulas and how the calculations were entered were not accurate. And then I can't speak to 2023, but I'm gonna assume the same thing happened, so.
Well, do we have record of how much we actually received in tax revenue for those 2 years?
Sue would probably be able to have that number.
Because I
she
would think
gives
you'd
it-
want to verify the projections with what actually happened.
Some of it ends up being unrecoverable, like not everybody pays their taxes.
Right, so
But
what's
this
the
is-
bottom line? What's the total?
Yeah, how much did we receive in 20?
23.
2024,
And 20, yeah,
well, I gave Tom a check for 1.6 million.
right. But it says real property taxes, 100, in the adopted budget, 131,000. So where does that number turn into once we get revenue? I mean, if this is a projection for a tax revenue, is that, what's the actual?
So the number that we get from the assessor's office is based on the assessment roll, when the assessment roll closes, and what the assessor has assessed for the town wide. There's things that are not, like I said, exemptions, state land, other things that don't get taxed, people that have like not-for-profit businesses, stuff like that. So this is the budget based on that document of what will come in. The amount that actually comes in then goes to Sue, and that number doesn't come from the assessor's office. So this budget amount that's in here in the budget is based on the assessor's document that we received based on the assessment roll that closed in July.
Okay, go ahead.
And it's $100,000 more than last year's?
So again, I can't be certain regarding the way so,
Yeah, I don't think, yeah, I'm just,
yeah, so
Thinking that-
an individual that was working on the budget and had worked on it for the last several years left midstream of the budget last year.
so then our adopted budget for 2024 or 2023 might be off. And we think that the 2025 numbers are correct.
Based on what the assessor provided. I can go back and check the formula.
Now, is the real property taxes here, I know that when we do our revenue, we have it, general fund, tax base, highway fund, tax base, fire protection, and library. Is this limited to only one of those?
So page 14 is just the general fund.
So that's the
And-
general fund.
And then if you go to the highway page, highway revenues, we've inserted, which is on page 17.
Right,
That estimate was $1,076,000.
okay. So do we have any numbers of what the actual general tax revenue has been to compare it with the budget estimates?
That would be comparing it to the numbers that Sue gets in.
But her numbers have to be separated by different categories,
Right, because then, yes,
and they are, I assume, when you,
I think they come from the county in different categories.
so we do have that information
I believe,
somewhere.
right, we just never compared it because the budget, this budget document is prepared budget to budget,
Right,
which is not budget to actual.
so is the tentative budget for 2025 so much higher because in your calculation you used a higher rate? Like on the first page, it shows that the amount to be raised by taxes is higher. Is that why this number is where it is?
Yeah, is this reflecting the new tax rate that's higher
The
than
increase.
the increase?
Yes, times the tax rate, yes. So it's total assessed value for the town, taxable assessed value for the town, divided by 1,000 times the tax rate is what an
Times the
individual would
new
pay.
estimated tax rate that you put
Right.
into the formula.
Right, is what an individual would pay, and that's what that amount is.
So is the real property tax the line that's balancing the new spending? Or the additional spending? Is
That's it's after the tax rate is determined.
okay, so basically we've added up how much money from the departments that we want to spend. These numbers underneath this haven't really changed too much. And anything that we didn't have, we've added to the property tax line.
You don't add it to the property tax line because there's only so many properties in the town. So it would be increasing the tax rate.
Right, no, that's what I mean,
Yeah,
increasing the tax rate, and this is what's showing why
There's
there's.
a shortfall between the expenses and the revenue that's gonna come in
And it-
without without the property tax assessed value revenue.
And
That
that,
shortfall has to be made up via taxes
right,
or
so that's
the
all,
fund balance.
that's all ending up, right now, it's all showing in the real property tax group,
Correct.
as
For,
far
for
as,
general fund, not including the other.
All,
well, for all of them.
all of them, because if
Yeah,
you
real
go
properties
to,
are all up.
Right, on all of them, correct.
So basically, the 550,000 is already baked into this number. And it's saying we need to go to these tax rates in order to pay that amount.
if you do not want to cut any of
Or
the
use
expenses
fund
or use
balance.
the fund balance, this is what it would be. It would be an increase in the tax rate, which is last year, if you go to page 1,
He went from 14 to the 20.
yeah. So on page 1, I don't know if it's highlighted in red on your version, but the combined tax rate is like basically 20.89. Last year was 14.
Okay.
40?
that's- Yeah, I didn't see it, there's.
Yeah.
The 1440.
So more than 50% increase in tax rate, given the numbers that are in here right now.
So,
So
but
that's
all
what-
the other estimates on the, let's say, page 14 are based on other things other than us changing the rate.
Right, those are just,
Those are estimates based on other factors.
Right, how much we're gonna get in sales tax revenue, how much we're gonna get in from youth, from the camp, how much we're gonna get in from mortgage tax revenue, like those are all estimates. Either Tom developed or came from the departments, estimates from Sue, from the town clerk coming in, things like that. So the other thing on page 2, where it has general and highway lines, you'll see that in yellow, yet less unexpended fund balance. So right now it's 0. So if we take funds from the fund balance, it then will reduce that formula and the tax rate will not be at 21.
It'd be somewhat
It'll
lower.
reduce it, right? So that's where I was trying to explain, like either
I understand.
we have a
yeah,
shortfall,
okay.
either fund balance or reduce expenses that have
So-
been submitted.
The secondary question I have then is, have we in recent years compared our actual budget forecasts to what we actually received during that particular calendar year?
So I'm gonna say no in recent years. When you go back several budgets, the budget document used to be prepared actual to budget.
Correct.
And so I don't know how many years, but a few years ago, right? So it
Right.
used to be like that. So in the last few years, that analysis was not conducted. And at the moment, like Katie indicated, QuickBooks doesn't have all of the data in there recorded properly. So we're not able to do that now for this budget year either.
I think that's a serious deficiency in the
I-
budget process.
Well, not to mention, we don't know if we don't know what we spent
So we don't
in
know.
front of
what
us,
took
so we don't
in.
even know if our budget last year was.
Agreed. So you're
Okay,
comparing
yeah.
budget to budget and right, the budget amount could have been significantly over last year, could have been significantly under. We don't have that
Right, we
data
don't,
to
which
know.
is just.
So what's the most recent year that we have actual?
I do not know. Before 2023. And I didn't look back farther than that. I only did that to prepare this. We'd have to go back to the prior years. And Sue probably has all those in her office. They could see what the last actual
I
was.
guess I would just be more interested in 2024, just so we can start and know what we did this year, and base our next year's budget on what we really did, as opposed to what we think.
So I think, like Katie indicated, she's close, but we don't have we don't have it now. I mean, Katie can probably speak to this of how if we'll have it by the time the adopted budget needs to be approved and submitted.
Kind of feeling like I'm driving at night without headlights on. Not a comfortable feeling.
I have entered all the expenses in so far this year, and I have the chart, and I'll send it out again. There was a couple adjustments or transfers that we made last meeting to reflect any overages, but vast majority of the lines are under budget for what was listed for 2024.
So Tom's referring to a separate spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Not the
Not
QuickBooks
Katie's.
that Katie.
Yeah, no, it's
So-
just, but I know Katie's working on that stuff and still putting stuff together, so anything right now is still guesswork as far as,
So what is your thought for having the income posted?
It took me about 2 weeks to do all the expenses. I mean, I was working not double time, but, I have other tasks that I have to do for the day-to-day operations. So in addition, a week, I mean, I've been working on it, I mean, it's like every,
no, you've got a lot of work to do. Understood.
So
and I'm not a forensic accountant.
You are not.
I'm not. No.
So how confident are we in the income projections in the tentative budget?
I've took going back and forth through the various numbers, and I am confident in the
Forecast?
forecasts.
One of the revenue lines in highway is incorrect. I don't know if you want to talk about that now or not, but it shows
What page?
8,000, 3,000 for maintenance of the rest of county roads that we do, and that should have stayed the same at 8,000 on the sheet I gave you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I read your number as a 3, and that's my fault.
It's done immediately.
That's my bad. Okay, I thought that, and Betsy asked me what that, and I thought that was 3. Excuse me, DJ.
It's page 17.
And I wonder, that's probably a little bit off the subject, but do we really need 18 accounts? Because that's 18 reconciliations a month. I mean, can't we just do it through the QuickBooks? Reconcile accounts and to whatever extent, I don't know if that works, but.
I think what happened was in order to get the interest rates when we negotiated with the bank, they had to open up all new accounts, but I don't think they closed the old ones. I think
It's only 2 have the zeros that could be closed,
I
but
think-
there's,
others that can be transferred and eventually
they need
streamlined.
to be condensed and,
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, just
it should be.
because it's a lot of work.
and right now, if we're audited, there has been no bank reconciliations done since the beginning of the year because Betsy was tasked with IRS and retirement and whatever else, so nobody took care of that.
And local retirements.
So the estimates I'm interested in the estimates for interest and earnings. You dropped that a little bit from last year. What's the reason for that?
Decrease in the interest rates. That's, I went through and took a pessimistic view on where the interest rates were going, instead of being overly optimistic and projecting too much.
If we start with the treasuries on February 1st, so in other words, if we do cash flow forecasts in December and January, and we can invest in treasuries right away, we can maximize our interest revenue for the year. Can we do that next year?
We would have to do it for each department instead of a lump sum, just to show it's not the commingled funds trying, generate.
Well, let me ask you this, is having, let's say we had one bank account for savings and one bank account for checking. Why is that an issue when we have it all in our accounting system where the funds are going and where the accounts are going? That's not commingling.
Yeah, that's just creating extra work.
It's a lot of extra work.
And
We should find out if it's required by law for us to do that, or can we simplify the number of bank accounts we have? And then we can put lump sums into treasuries right away. It doesn't have to be separated by youth or whatever.
Well, they would be allocated, that money would go into a treasury bond, if it's $100,000, 30 would be allocated in the software for one part, you know.
Right, in the
That would be
QuickBooks. Right,
taken care of in QuickBooks.
right.
And if there's interest, I don't know how that works, but it would go to whatever, but we should be maximizing that.
So at a minimum, Dave, like water, if we would take water funds, that would need to be separate.
Right, I understand water and probably highway you have to have
Right,
separate
so, but anything within general fund, but then, right, we could track it.
in
Within
the accounting
the system,
software.
right.
Because if we can get started right away when all our tax revenue comes in, we have usually in the ballpark of $3 million that we don't need for at least a month or 2 months until our bills start coming in. So if we start right away, we can maximize our interest revenue. So could we do that next year, start early and get a jump on it?
If we know where we're actually at with the fund balance. Because I'm not all that confident.
Well, you know what the bank balances are.
You know what the bank balances are, and you have to take out, you know, like the ARPA funds, the monument funds, the Water District 2.
Well, just have to do it.
I do keep all the funds separately, so as to be.
But I don't think they have to be in separate bank. Do you have any opinion on that?
I don't believe they do. I'll do a little bit more research on it just before we move forward with a definitive answer, but I don't think they necessarily need to be. Like you said, water and highway are different or unique, but I think you can have just a general fund account.
And ARPA, that's right, that would be great.
Yeah, so it sounds like maybe 3 or 4 accounts. And that would be a lot less, I mean, since we're not reconciling our bank statements now, we're coming up with 18 per month to do every month. That's just crazy.
Sounds like the KISS theory.
Keep it simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That could be done after the budget's done. So you don't have to do that right away, Tom.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let me ask this, as long as we're talking about the bank reconciliations. So are you caught up with like the retirement and IRS and audits and all that, that you would have time to do bank reconciliations next year? Or is that still ongoing?
It's still ongoing. We just received a letter from the IRS recently. They didn't apply our payment to the proper quarter, so that issue is still open. Tom is calling the IRS, so if Tom takes that issue over, I don't know if it's going to be as simple as just trying to get it applied to the correct quarter, but the calculations and everything are done. I think we're still going to owe some interest and penalties possibly, but if Tom works with the IRS, then I wouldn't have to do that. The state retirement reporting that I'm still doing actually has to be done this week. The plan was for me to work with Katie starting yesterday to teach her how to do that, but she was tasked with the budget, so that didn't happen. Katie and I have worked on the New York State Deferred Compensation, so she did take that over and she's doing that on a weekly basis. But the state reporting, right now I still have that. There are items that come through beyond the reporting that are like payroll issues that need to be researched. So I've been giving those to Katie and Tom so they could start researching those, and then I would just have to do the reporting part of it. Beyond that, Tom had talked to me about doing the annual financial report. That is 2 years past due. The 24 will be due in March, so we don't have it done by then. we'll be 3 years behind, and at that point, the state will consider not providing the town with funding. So that might impact highway CHIPS money and other areas. So that's also floating out there as a task that needs to be done. So it's just a matter of what I'm being asked to work on.
So would you feel more comfortable than going back, not necessarily to Wojcicki, but some other party to handle that for the bank reconciliations or audit? I mean, what would you feel comfortable with? Because we can't keep going on like this.
Yeah, I mean,
And you obviously need more help.
yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
I'm never gonna get caught up because
Yeah.
it's day to day where, I'm having a conversation with Tom, what do you want me to work on today? And all of it's a priority, but here it is, we're now, September, and I mean, maybe we're a little bit caught up. Katie's done a lot in QuickBooks, but we're still not there, right? We don't have the information for the budget. So there's a lot of things we still don't have yet. I think a lot of it is dependent, like the annual financial report, since it needs to start with 2022. Katie's working on 2024 data in QuickBooks. So 2022, 23 is not fixed. 22 is probably not fixed either. So that's going to be, a huge project all on its own just to get that resolved. And then depending on how far back we go with the bank reconciliations. Are we going to start in January and try to do the 18 accounts and the numerous transfers that we may or may not have, supporting documentation for each and every transfer that occurred to open and close and every transaction that happened there. So those bank reconciliations could be very messy. So even that alone could take a while. So as I explained to Tom, I'm willing to work on, it's not like I'm being selective as to what I want to work on. I realize that the town, there's a lot of things that are priority right now, but I can only do so much. And as you know, or many of you know, the reason I stepped down as the assessor is because I wanted to do less hours. I'm actually doing more. Like last week alone, I did 45 hours. For my position, according to the state, is 30. So, and now that the budget started and there's no one else to really work on the budget, that leaves me. So it's just very difficult for me to say, there's all these things that need to be done. I can't be the only person in town who can do them.
And even if you work 60 hours, it's still not.
Right, we're still gonna be behind,
Still gonna be
and
So
yeah. So I don't have an issue if we have, whatever company. I've had this conversation with Tom. What are my duties? I'd like to be assigned a specific task, and I thought that was going to be bank reconciliations last year when you gave me the title of bookkeeper, and I haven't done one bank reconciliation since then. All the other town employees have specific job duties and responsibilities, and mine are all over the place, and day to day it seems to change, which makes it very difficult for me, as you can imagine. So, I would really like that defined, and whatever that is, I guess we can discuss that. Whatever you feel is the best for the town, what you want an external accounting firm to do versus what you want done in-house.
I think it's pretty obvious that we probably should hire an accountant just to do bank reconciliations.
or
And get it
just the
caught up,
retirement.
get it caught right up.
I was able to get back, an accountant got back to me yesterday, and then today. And we talked about reconciliation. And we're gonna have more conversation. We have Katie prepared some information for him today, which I'm gonna be sending to him. And he's gonna take a pro bono look at it and get back to us. So,
Is he part of a larger firm?
yes, BST, municipal accounting.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So that's what we have.
Because knowing where our money is kind of important.
How much money we have.
How much money we
Kind of
have.
important.
We have we've been trying to keep track of where the money is, and how much money we have.
Yeah, but you gotta reconcile your bank accounts. It's just-
And required according to the state, given the last audit that occurred, and it was something that the town was told that
Yeah.
needed to occur.
Just to get back to this, page 14 budget sheet where you have the mortgage tax forecasted the same as 2024 is, well, once again, do we know what the actual is for this year? For mortgage?
52,
And that's not all of it, right?
we should be getting another check. We got one check in June-ish, and that was for 52,
Close
5.
enough. Okay. Is it usually 50-50, the two checks, or is it change?
I thought the second check was less, but that's, again, conservative outlook, but I took in that, and that's why I put it down for 75. Initially, I thought it was just one check. I was wrong. There's two checks that came in, and that's why I took a conservative approach on that.
Okay.
Does the youth program get the state aid every year, the 5,500? I know we got it this year. Does that
They got,
keep going on?
we got 25 in 2023. We got 2,500, and then they boosted us up to 55.
So we think we're good to get that again.
Yes.
Is the total on this page done by the computer? Is that a spreadsheet type thing?
It's a formula.
Okay. Because that number at the bottom, very bottom is $200,000 more this year than last year. But I only see $100,000 difference in the real property taxes. I don't see another 100,000 in everything else. Maybe I'm not calculating with a calculator, but I just don't see enough changes that would make up for that other $100,000.
Okay, I can check the formula.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, it's not 200, it's 130.
No, it's 156 and 911.
Which one's, are you talking
The bottom line one. That's $240,000 difference, but the only difference up here is $100,000 extra in real property taxes. Nothing else has that big of a change. That's just why I wonder if the calculation's correct.
I may have given Betsy different numbers on the sales tax, and that may have account for
Sales tax? That's only 20,000 though.
Right, but originally I put it at 570,000.
Yeah, but should we calculate it?
But as I said, I gave Betsy back and forth information and may have caused the problem.
Okay,
So that is on me.
all right.
I'd really like to say that I appreciate all your effort and hard work to get this to us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll start back at the beginning.
Please. Okay, page 3. Okay, town board is 2%, but the contractual the same. Justices, 2%, contractual the same. Supervisor stayed the same as last year. Deputy supervisor, 2, contractual stayed. Secretarial, 2 is at 2%, And we had, Mike Noble was gracious enough to give us time at the end of last week. And we had a four-way conversation with QuickBooks. And they have a program where $50 a month, we can get a live person to answer a question that comes up. So that is the reason for the $600 difference on contractual and secretarial from 2024 to 2025.
Tom, is that limited to hours per month? Or just a flat fee for however many times we need to call them?
The way I took it from what Mike was saying, we put several calls in at least a month, as opposed to five or six times a day. That was somewhat limited. I will have to find out exactly how limited it was, but the way the lady talked on the phone, it gave us some flexibility as far as number of calls we can put in and ask throughout the month. Okay, going down to accounting, personal services, 2%. The new rate reflects Betsy's change in rate and 2%. Tax collector and deputy tax collector, Sue had requested $2,700 for each position for that, which is a little more than 2%, but for the work that's done, that is why Sue requested. Under,
Can we look at Betsy's breakdown now? You asked about the annual license fee too in your budget request, which is just a very, very small number. So you have the accounting and the bookkeeping training. So the accounting firm service that we talked about, the 20,000, and then 4,000 for additional bookkeeping training.
So actually, Tom put that numbers in there. My license fee is actually once every 3 years. So that, I think, noted that because that was an actual for this year it was paid. So I actually don't have that next year. But I did say possibly training, unknowing what my job duties will be next year.
Yeah.
And what I would be tasked to do.
Okay.
So, but depending on what that is, that was, numbers, actually Tom came up with.
And the $4,800 for salary increase, I don't really see that.
So my salary increase was, for adjusted for the amount for this year.
Right.
Increase and then 2%. So it reflects that. Are you talking about mine or Susan?
No, I'm not talking about Sue's. I know where that came from and stuff,
Okay.
but Tom, because I did notice that everything was in the same handwriting
Yeah.
from the departments. So there's an extra $4,800 there that says salary increase under accounting, but you just have the personal services, the 45,688 and the 24,000, and that other amount isn't listed anywhere.
So my understanding is that my initial salary was $39,992, and then the board approved the $4,800 instead of the health stipend. So that was added on for 2024. Already receiving that for 2024, but it's not reflected in the approved 2024 budget because that was before the board approved that 4,800. So it's the 39,992 plus the 4,800, which is the true 2024 number plus 2%.
Okay.
I believe that's the calculation.
Yeah, it's the 39,992 plus 4,800 times.
Right, to the 2%. Yep. Just wanted to make sure that it wasn't something else there that says salary increase.
no, so that was just a note for everyone, just to remember that what was done.
Okay.
That was it. I tried to put that in the 2024. page 4, under assessor, the tentative rates for personal services and assessor's clerk reflect a 2% increase from 2024. The contractual reflects the possibility of the senior complex coming in and cost for bringing in an outside firm to do the proper assessing of that property. And what the actual cost may be for that. Under town clerk, personal services,
Could you go through that last one?
okay, we had in 2024, contractual expenses figured in primarily for bringing in a firm to make an assessment of the Schuhart property, the senior complex that started building, in order to be able to determine how to properly assess and tax. Am I saying that correct?
Assess.
So that's what the prime amount for the 8806 was, less Michelle's training, and the 10,000 was an estimate on her part based on conversations with firms that would be required to come in and do an assessment of the senior housing complex, if it did come to be, in order for the Poestenkill to properly assess and tax, put the property tax on that senior.
So last year we had put it in the budget for 6,000 as a possible expense for that. I think we had we contacted 3 firms, and we took the average and we put in 6,000 for that, but since it's been a couple of years, since it's ongoing, we don't know if it's going to be approved or not, so that money was never spent.
I see, so the money's not really spent.
The money's not spent. The other part of it, though, because now Michelle's taking her assessor training classes, so that part, but the 6,000 that was budgeted even the year before, when the project, started, because we don't really know when it's going to be completed and ready to be assessed. But now, since it's been a couple of years, contacting firms, the prices have gone up. So she just wanted to make sure that there would be adequate funds available if it does get approved, and we needed an external firm to appraise the property, since we don't have a similar property in town to do a comparison.
Okay, so basically it's $8,806 we didn't spend last year, and we're just putting it back in the budget for this year.
Part of the 8,000,
Or something.
yeah, 6,000 definitely unspent, because that was allocated for that. She did use some training money, and then, supplies, whether that's coming out of that. And then again, so for 2025, she still needs to do assessor training. But the amount now would be closer, 7,000, 8,000 for allocating for that potential project.
Do we always allocate for projects?
I presume, just same as what we would have to do for equipment, we would have to, in order to spend the money in the budget, in order for us to spend the money, it has to be shown in the budget.
Agreed with that statement, but just, it's not a project, but it's still in planning phase, right?
Right, but it could start, and we would need to have professional help in order to assess.
Do we have that for any other projects and developments going on in the town?
I don't think we've ever had such a project anymore. We've had subdivisions come through, but there were single-family homes, and they were much easier to figure out and assess, whereas this project here is a completely different animal. And
I'm agreeing with that, but we don't have it.
but there is a possibility. We're just looking at the possibility of having to replace it next year.
Interesting, I just look at, if this causes us to go and increase taxes to people for something that isn't even done yet, it just seems,
Yeah, so it's just really a holding place. So if the board feels that that project is not going to happen next year,
No, I understand, but just,
then it could, right, then it could be
Yeah.
removed, but then, the next year.
but our tax rate would already be established with it in there.
Correct.
So we would be possibly increasing the taxes for a project that may or may not happen depending on, what the
So,
applicant does or.
right, so I guess the worst case scenario, if it does happen and go forward and it's built, then the assessor's office would be coming to the town board saying they need $8,000.
Which would make sense, yeah.
And then the money wouldn't be set aside for it.
So I'd rather do
So
that.
depending on whether the feeling is of it would happen in 2025, depending on whatever the status is right now. So I think early, when we were initially doing it, seemed farther along in the phase.
Yeah, that's just my comment.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, am I cutting that or not cutting it?
If it was me, I would cut it. But I'm just, and if that expense is needed, we have to do it. Because we want to build it into the tax rates.
They're not gonna assess until it's built though, right? Is it really feasible that would?
Even partial, so that's what you're doing on residential as well. If it's partial, we would put partial on. So I think will it go forward and will it be at the point where construction would begin to happen next year? If you think that the likelihood of getting it approved to that stage in construction not happening until 2026, then there's probably is no need to have it. But we do partial, the assessor does partial on even residential.
Betsy, what the figures of fair value for that service? 8,000?
I didn't make the phone calls, that came from the current assessor. So I think prior, like last year's budget, we had like 2,800 for training and that type of thing. So I think we had 6,000 from what I recall. It's 6,000 in there from the year before when we had contacted companies. I think she updated that and did contact and did again an average and came out with that it has gone up. So I think that's why she added, it's now like around 8,000. So I think that's why she added the extra 2,000.
So just put 2,000 or 3,000 in there and we could deal with that later.
So what you're proposing, Frank, is if the Schuharts do come back and get the break ground and start construction, we would possibly have to do a evaluation or assessment on what has been built so far.
It depends how far along they get in 2025. Like if they're just like clearing the land. So again, I'm no longer assessor, but if they're just clearing the land, and getting it ready, there's probably nothing to assess. But, if they clear the land, put a foundation in, they have a structure, even though they don't have the individual apartments built and stuff, that still qualifies for adding some value to the assessment roll. But this really was for when it was completed, assuming like it would be completed in a full year, and then we would put it on the assessment roll. And the roll, the final roll is July 1st. So if that helps at all. So the 2025 roll would be July 1st.
Work has to be completed for July 1st.
Yeah,
It actually has to be completed before that. That's when the final roll is done. So
I guess I would drop it to some number to account for normal stuff that you have to put contractually, and then
or training.
And then, yeah, for the training and stuff, and then we'll deal with that when that happens.
So are you suggesting
Okay, right now,
4 or 5?
Yeah, for,
Or we stay at 6 where we were before?
what we were before, but we don't,
okay, right now, Shell has used up about $2,300.
say 4,000.
So we dropped it from $10,000 to $4,000 is what you're saying?
That's what we do.
Yes, 4,000?
4,000, please. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay, any more on the assessor? Okay, I'll go to town clerk. Okay, town clerk, we have, from the 2020, we have the new requested rate, 48,266. And deputy town clerk, 23,338. Sue's sheets have been supplied, and note has been entered onto the request sheet. Sue's efforts are very strong, very positive in the office. Lindsay's also. Both wear many hats, they take care of residents, and these particular increases, Sue has merit or grounds for requesting those.
I'd also like to make a comment here that Sue and DJ did not receive an increase last year as other employees did. So just keep that in mind while you're considering a request.
When we're done with this category, can I interrupt after we're done with this one?
Other comments regarding Sue and Lindsay?
I'm good.
They're both excellent.
Yeah, but if anything, I would add to that.
Okay. You want to talk now?
Yeah, I just added up the 2024 adopted budget numbers on page 14, and the number I got does not match what's the total at the bottom. It says here 9/11/831. I got 1,042,928.
Okay, so I'll check the formula on the 9/11.
I'll add the other column too.
Is it possible to get a spreadsheet rather than a PDF also?
The spreadsheet is massive, but
Yeah,
you can share it. I mean, each one of these pages are a separate tab, and then it has
I
formulas.
love spreadsheets.
And what you could do is just made our copy read only, and then we can't make any changes to it.
Oh, we're not gonna
send it
We're not
back.
gonna send it back.
Keep it, right?
It's just a reference.
But that's, my number is over $1 million, $100,000 different. So that distorts what last year's numbers look like. Pretty,
So can we just go back to, I'm sorry, David.
that's
go.
fine.
So we discussed Lindsay. So is this then going to be her deputy town clerk salary of 23,338, or is that going to be some other number that we're adjusting to? Because I think this was put in as a request for an hourly rate increase.
Wouldn't it be easier just to have that as a salary number and add all the other, like just the different things and then just pay it? however salary's paid. I don't know.
Right, so that's what I'm asking. Is this gonna be now set, her line's now gonna be set, well, her salary for deputy town clerk will be 23,330. Is that? I
So
just
we'll
wanna
have
clarify
like that as deputy town clerk, we'll have the additional $2,700 and then the water and whatever
Right, so
else.
she'll get, so like on her pay stuff, she'll see three
Three
different
boxes, yeah.
lines, right? to come
But not
through.
hourly, it would all be just a lump sum.
It'll be the same
Yeah,
amount
Same.
every week, that divided by,
I think that would be a lot easier to do.
I just want to make sure that that's what is being agreed to, that now is going to be salary.
It's probably the easiest, and
And you're
she'll
good with that,
Yeah.
or that amount,
Yeah.
or salary?
increase.
That'd be satisfaction?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, does everybody understand?
I added up the 2025 tentative budget and that number's correct, or at least I got the same number as that in 2024.
Okay,
It's off by $130,000. So comparing, you're not comparing apples to apples here.
Off by 131,080.
98, maybe,
Maybe especially that, hold on.
did I?
Okay, do we want to proceed? Do we want to wait for David to finish, or we?
No, go ahead.
You sure?
Yep.
Thank you, David. Okay, we now go to law. We move, okay,
Very
so
close.
Change.
the reason for the change in location of the numbers, because Ian is a private vendor, private contractor. We went from personal level to contractual expense with a 2% increase. And then special projects work is listed at 35,000. So there's two. And, you know, so that's the reason for the change on that. Okay, engineering services left at 23,000. Buildings. I proposed this a little greater increase. Betsy, am I reading that? Did I do that number right? For Lisa?
yeah, so Lisa should be 2%, and then, Donnie,
Okay, all right, and as far as, okay, we're entering Don under the firehouse for services that he performs, and the number in the 2025 budget is the contract number per what's listed in the contract. And will be a slight change to what the balance of the 2024 pay rate is in order to reflect the 2024 contract. That correction has been made. On the equipment, we're leaving it at 500, there's minimum amount purchased. Energy improvements, we're going the same with 0. Contractual expense on the buildings was increased by 6,000 because of changes in energy and,
I have a question on that though, because you transferred 12,000 from youth at the last board meeting because there was a shortfall, so I don't know where that shortfall was because it wasn't documented as to what the total for the 12,000 was made up of, but do we need to bump that up? I mean, if we really were short 12,000 in buildings, then we should be up to 38,000. That was the budget transfer.
yeah, I went back and forth with the numbers and trying to keep the increases as minimal as I can. I thought the 6,000 would suffice, a $6,000 increase would suffice for 2025.
But again, if we transferred 12,000, we don't know what that 12,000 was from, what the shortfall was that we had to transfer from youth.
A good chunk of it was on the energy because of the situation that we had at the beginning of the year with National Grid. and the overages that had to be paid back. And that took a bite out of the projected 2024 amount. And I thought we'd be caught up and not have to address such overages again going into 2025. Over delayed payments or missed payments, whatever, because of who they were sending the bills to, we weren't receiving them before the end of 2023, and try and take care of basically current charges instead of having to pick up some late charges.
Okay.
Okay, page 5, total mailing. Right now, we have about $1,100 left in the mailing for getting Bose, and we still have additional heavy mailing to go out this year. So I brought it up to 7,000. Supplies under 16604 left at $10,000. Data processing. Mike is still putting together numbers and he's inventorying what we have. These are rough numbers. It may change based on Mike. We have those numbers for him shortly, and when I get those, I will pass them on to the board members. So the 9,000 or 15,000 may drop a little bit, or I'll have better numbers, but those are tentative numbers as Mike is going through it. Under contractual, we have the situation now with the probably getting away from digital towpath and becoming free with whomever Mike suggests. And then Mike's rate has gone up a little bit, and what Mike is doing to assist us in the transition, if we do it from the digital towpath to a better email system, internet system. And that is part of the reason for the increase. But as I said, Mike is coming back with numbers, and I will notify him as soon as I get those.
We're leaving digital towpath?
We may, because of the problems that we've had. He's looking at different options for improving coming up with a more reliable email system. He hasn't finished working on it yet. He is trying to gather information, and he will be coming back with this as a possibility. But we did have that problem, and sometimes the email system does work a little slow, even now. So
You can't copy an email from Towpath.
No.
You have to snip it, print it, scan it, and then you have it. My opinion is Towpath went away with Clinton's ditch.
I print all my emails all the time. Towpath.
I don't,
You
David,
don't
right,
copy.
can't even.
If I want to attach another email onto another email, I have to turn it into an electronic copy. You cannot do that with Towpath. You gotta snip it, scan it.
I haven't tried lately and everything, but I know Dave and Frank keep looking in, and when I like respond to something,
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not saying they have a problem, I just didn't know we're switching. It's the first I heard of it, is all.
I've been pushing for that since I got here.
So Mike is coming back with numbers again. It hasn't happened yet, but we'll be having him shortly, and I'll pass that along. I used your business email.
Yeah,
David,
I
hopefully you got that.
got it from June, actually. I don't know what happened there. Check and see. Too.
Okay, under bank service charge, $7.50 a quarter on trust, and plus 500 for bank fees, individual bank fees we get from bank fees. On the insurance, the reason for the $9,000 increase was because of the cost increase that we went through on Reimer, and also on the liability, and figuring a slight increase for next year. Association dues were more expensive this year. That's the reason why I brought up the 1,400. We had figured 1,000, it came in 1,300 and change, 1,300. Website, again, Mike may have information on that. We're changing, but we're waiting for information back from Mike on that. Contingency, I added $2,000 because of rising costs and unfortunately because of more frequent storms again. That's up to the board to decide whether or not they want to go along with that. That was a thought that I had to have them address situations that may come up. Everybody okay with the 2,000? Okay. Public safety, street signs, about the same. Bob Dyer is going to be working with us again next year. Personal services, 2% increase. Kennel expense left the same. Code enforcement, personal services just reflects a 2% increase on personal services and clerk line. And truck fuel went down a little bit. Truck maintenance, same contractual expense, increased to $400 to cover maybe a little extra legal costs that Tracy may incur because of the situation code enforcement.
So do we want to talk about getting the truck at some point in time?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that, where are you gonna pay for a new truck from?
Okay, all right, the truck, okay, try to send an email out this afternoon. On the truck, Tracy had been up to Upstate Auto Sales on Route 7 and looked at a different product up there. He looked at first he looked at an Escape, then looked at a Colorado, used Colorado, and that was $13,900, $21 for inspection. That's something that is there. We can possibly do something this year with budget transfers from strictly from the general account. And trying to outline that in the email that I sent and prepare it for everybody's review. And I tried to send it out on our business addresses. Okay, so that's something he's looking for. He drove it. He drove both of the vehicles, and he's just looking for something to get around in, make sure that it's four-wheel drive because of the hill and terrain that he would have to run it through.
Why not an electric bicycle? Don't answer that.
Because it's not four-wheel drive.
Yeah, but it's green. Okay,
I hadn't thought about the electric bike.
sorry.
Not sure.
I just had to.
Thank you.
No filter.
Okay, that's a thought on that. And, the other option too is if Chuck's vehicle goes down, Colorado would allow him to utilize that for some of his work. So that's out there for consideration. We just have to respond back to Upstate with an answer.
Are we adding an expense for that here?
And that,
It'd be 2024, right?
I would try, we need to get it in 2024.
Okay.
So that. Okay, page six. Okay, street signs, about the
We
same.
just did that.
I'm sorry, excuse me, you're right. Okay.
We like that page.
Page 7. Health.
Page 6 is that one. There's 2 page 6s.
If we can save that much in the budget.
Didn't have to buy 7.
Thank you for that correction. I missed that. Okay, personal services, going 3,000 for a registrar. Okay, page 8, transportation, superintendent of highways. DJ submitted a request for an increase. And he put a cover letter in explaining why he is deserving of that increase for everyone's review, because of the services that he does render, the work that he does, and the performance that he has given to the town. Okay, equipment left the same at 500, contractual expense, that is, right now, the only thing is for the cell phone, is that correct, DJ?
Yeah, the AT&T bill gets paid out of contractual. We've only just, I think we're only at like 1,300.
Approximately 1080 right now
So,
for a year.
So then this should go up.
yeah, why did that get dropped 1,000?
That's a number that you have on your sheet, sir. Sorry, if I misread it again.
It stays the same, I can check here on my spreadsheet. Well, the sheet you provided, Tom, said we've only spent $557.44 for AT&T as of September. And we budget 2,000 for that. So with only a few months left in the year, we dropped it to 1,000, because we still have $500 left. You just said like 1,100 something, was the number you just put out.
Okay, for the current rate, AT&T went up, okay, to 80, 88 or $89, and I just multiplied that by 12. That's how I come up with the 1080.
Okay, but that wasn't a number I was provided, so I'm,
No,
you're asking department heads to give you numbers, and I didn't know that the AT&T bill went up.
as just as of late.
So this should be like 11.
So are we leaving this at 2,000 or 1,500? And is that my question, or is that your question?
That's my question to you. What do you feel secure with?
Well, you just gave me a different number than what I've had in my sheet, so I don't know, Tom.
All right, $1,100 will cover the.
I would say then put it to 1,500, since you're coming up with an expense that I'm not aware about.
What is possible AT&T will go up again next year, because they usually do. Annual.
That way. To expect them.
So I'm sorry, what's the number?
1,500, please. Mine contractual, stay to 10,000. Okay, contractual expense on the town, 38,000 remains the same. Street lighting, it's been going up. And, we're just, with the latest bill we just got in September from National Grid, that put us just above the $19,000 level. I know we had situations beginning of the year with back billing, but that's why I put down 21,000.
We have asked for an increase in electricity and natural gas, so we can assume that that's probably going to go up.
Especially since we're now contracting wind farms to come online next year at 4 times the rate of every other source of electricity.
But we're gonna offset that
By
shutting
what?
down.
By
hydroelectric.
By dying? They all
Shutting down,
die, then we don't need anything.
shutting down hydroelectric.
Tom, before we move on to page 9, did you have a document from AT&T that you could send me? Because that bill gets emailed to me, and I haven't seen that increase in monthly. So I'd like to have that for bills, if that is an increase that's coming, that's something we need.
We will get that to you, sir.
When did that go up?
A month
Yeah, it was 81.99 and then it went up.
to 88.
Can I interrupt the Please. Looking at that error that was in the town revenues, Frank said basically it was the real property taxes was not added in to the 2024 column.
Okay,
And if you compare 2024 with 2025 without that being added back, the difference between year to year is only $2,000. From 2025 tentative to 2024 adopted, because the bottom line in 2024 didn't include the taxes.
okay,
And I added up the costs for highway, general, and the water, and the difference between the 2 years in the budgets, and it comes up to $138,000 difference increase overall. So I'm confused where you got the 500 and some thousand in rate in increased taxes in order to cover that expenses only went up by 138.
so what I do
That's
is,
like $400,000 difference.
so what I do is go to page, so on page 2, that in the general fund row and the highway fund row where it says less unexpended balance, the 2 yellow highlighted fields, which there's nothing in those 2 fields right now.
Mhm.
So I add numbers there. And if you can see for general, the amount that right now needs to be raised from taxes, the far right column is
Mhm.
like 284,000.
Mhm.
So the most you can add from the general fund unexpended balance is 284,000. So I add an amount up to 284, and then the difference I bring from highway, because that you can go up to 1 million. And then depending on whatever number is needed there, I go to page 1. And on page 1, where the combined rates right now is 20.89. Last year's rate was 14.47. I keep increasing those 2 numbers between unexpended fund balance till I get the combined tax rate down to 14.47, roughly, somewhere in there.
Okay,
And that ended up being between general and highway, a total of like 550, 560, in order to bring the tax rate down across the board, because there's no money that comes from the fire department, and there's no money that comes from library to do
Okay.
that.
so, but you said that last year we used 300 and some from that unexpended balance?
I don't have last year's adopted budget, but if you go to last year's adopted budget, whatever we have in that right now where there's 2 blanks and those yellow highlighted, whatever we put there, and I think it was roughly 300 something that we needed. I could be more, I'd have to look at it, but same thing, like we had to, because the prior supervisor didn't want to increase taxes from the prior year, so we had to adjust that to get it close to that roughly 14.5.
I don't recall it being that much, do you? I mean, unexpended balance, I don't remember that much. It was like 100.
It could have been like 100 from general, and then the rest from highway.
So what you're saying is it would be an increase of 200,000.
I'm saying the
Something's not adding up here.
2 numbers
There's
here,
something funny.
the 2 because all of the increases. So I don't have the total for 2024, but everything basically increased. You have more increases in expenses than in revenue.
Well, I see that the increase of the 3
So
categories that I put it in, general, highway, and water,
Yeah.
is $139,000 increase.
139,000 in what?
The total increase in the three.
In revenue?
2024, no,
In
expenses.
expenses? It's more, you're not, salary alone is more than that. The 2% in,
Yeah, but there's some things that are decreased too.
so 300,000. It's
That's not what I got.
300,000, yeah, 170 we took from general fund,
You're talking
130,000 from
between
highway.
24 and 25.
Between 24 and
So it's
25.
like 43,000 in highway.
Well, on page 13, it has the total general fund appropriations. Year to year, it's about an $80,000 difference. Am I missing something?
So, I'm sorry, so June has the 2024 adopted budget. The amount from unexpended fund balance is a total 300,000, 170 from general and 130 from highway.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, what page?
Back to the expenses
Yeah,
on page
what page?
13.
Page 13?
That's the total general fund appropriation for general. That's an $80,000 difference.
So, also, the fire contract increase. So the increase in that has to be included.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
but I'm just talking about what we have here. I'm just trying to figure out what this big difference is, because I don't see it.
Well, 284.
So if you look on page 13, the tentative budget, the 2025 general fund appropriation, 1.197.
Yeah.
And then on page 2, appropriations, general fund, 1.197. Is general fund appropriations.
Right.
Less estimated revenue of 913. The difference that needs to be made up is 284,000. So
Okay.
that's where that number on page 13 goes.
Right, you're including the income and expenses. I was just looking at the expenses. The expenses have only increased by about 80,000.
The 284,
That means that our income has dropped by 200,000. So there's something wrong.
and the 284,000 doesn't include the tax levy that we normally would pay. So we're already paying from 2024, 130,000 of that is already part of our taxes. I don't want to say that, but that's not all new money.
That would all
I'm
be
sorry,
raised from taxes.
Right, but we are currently raising,
That's not
Half
what we're
that.
charging now, right?
right, we're
Right.
currently raising half that.
Well, but I'm just
But you
looking
still
at,
have to pay your total tax though. You don't just say we're paying half. So
No, I understand that. The $913,000 less estimated revenue does not include any real estate property
correct,
taxes.
and that's the taxes made
So-
for it.
because it,
Realistically, that 913, if we have 2023s or 2024s, it'd be $100 and something thousand higher. So the difference that we need to raise,
so you need to raise the full amount.
I
Right,
understand,
but an
but
individual person's tax bill will go up by like roughly 50%.
yeah, I
So that.
get it. I guess I'm just,
So in that far right column where it says amount to be raised by taxes, so we need to raise this full amount. The reason you can drop it is if we take the money from unexpended balance, the column before, and then you wouldn't have to get the money from taxes.
right, but normally we would, the whole problem is there's no actuals for 2020 anything. We have, so it's not like a whole new, we're short 100 and, no, we're not short 284,000, we're short, based off of year to year, we're short 150,000.
Comparing
So
the two tax levies.
I'm not sure you're
Correct.
looking at it
He's
correctly.
comparing the two tax levies.
Yeah,
Yes, that's just an estimated tax levy. It's
Yeah.
not-
Right, so if you look at the tax levy, the last year's was like 14,470. We looked at Supervisor Russell's actual
Right.
January tax bill, it was 14.47. And now we're gonna say it's roughly gonna be, 21. So that's an increase of 50%. We don't have that 14.47 in the bank, that was last year's money. So we have to now raise the full 21.
Yeah, I just,
So an individual's tax bill would go up by 50%
right.
over last year.
And that's where I'm confused, because what I see is that our expenses for general highway and water go up by 138. Our actual revenue just for general only changed, if you put the right number in the bottom column, by $2,000. I
So
don't see this
So
extra $250,000.
water is its own entity. So you
Right.
wouldn't include water revenue in general fund and highway fund money. They are self-sufficient. They have to,
Right, but there's not
Support
that
themselves.
much change there that's dramatic, so something's not right here, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. Doesn't make
In-
sense.
in the revenue. So I'm gonna check that formula, but that's the 24 formula.
No, something's wrong in totals somewhere. I mean, there's the missing real property tax thing in this, on page 14, so that's wrong. And I'm just wondering if there's other things that are wrong, because,
But it's wrong on the 2024. So on the 2025, when you do the spreadsheet, you have to calculate the tax rate to
well, I
determine
understand,
what
it's
the
a
revenue
backwards
is gonna
count,
be.
it's like
So
trial and error.
when you do the total, you can't include what it's gonna be because you don't know yet. So you leave that field blank,
No, I understand.
That's
Get
like
that,
it. Yeah.
and then
It's
back.
trial by error.
And then you
kind of
back
thing.
it into it. You say, okay, now my tax rate's 21, calculate total assessed
Yeah,
value.
it's
on
where it all
total,
falls out.
And then you put it back in.
I just don't see where there's such a big increase when the expenses haven't increased that much, and the revenue is basically unchanged, according to our forecasts. So it shouldn't be that big a change in the,
So last
Tax
year, it was
requirement.
300,000. In order to get the 1447 tax rate, we used 300,000 from unexpended fund balance.
and this year you say it's more like 520.
So 220 difference then between, and we're saying it's 284, between revenue and expenses, it's 284.
Yeah, but I just don't see it in the numbers here that there's that much of a difference in the 2 years. That's what I'm
Up to
saying.
284.
I just don't see it. I think there's something wrong somewhere.
So I don't know what's on that sheet, June for 2024, if those two numbers.
Shows the way I could try and have
So
that.
if the general fund, it's, the number's grayed out, so you can't see, it must have been highlighted.
Oh,
But it says that appropriations were 1,112,929, and revenue was 911,831. Utilizing 170,000 from unexpended fund balance. So whatever that equals would be the amount to be raised by taxes. So that's like roughly 200,000, because you're talking about 1.12 million versus 911.
So the difference in spending in budget isn't that much. So let's say it's 150 or 200,000.
I get 138.
Yeah, so
roughly.
that's about what I have. But we didn't have it last year, so we borrowed 300. We took
From our
300,000.
savings.
So now it's the 300 that we missed last year plus the 130, so we're up at least the 400 number.
I understand.
So
300,000 we used last
Yeah.
year from the fund balance, 170 from
plus-
general.
The increase in expenses is gotta add to
Right,
that.
so 300,000 from the fund balance, plus all the increases in expenses,
And that brings us up to 400 or
less, right, the
Whatever.
short in revenue. So whatever,
Good.
then the difference still needs to be made up, either taxes or the fund balance. But this version of the budget you have now, since I wasn't given a fund balance number, it's showing it's all coming from taxes. That means the tax rate, without
That
using
makes
any
sense.
fund balance, it would increase by that much. So then the decision needs to be made, how much do you want to increase taxes? How much do you want to use from the fund balance? How much do you want to cut expenses?
Did you already go over page 12 of the health insurance?
No, we haven't got that far yet. We're at page 8.
Oh, okay.
Page 9. Yeah, page 8.
Oh, wait.
So it's page 9, veteran services, excuse me. Okay, economic assistance, veteran services. They've been at 4,000 the past couple of years. Had requests to try and do a little more, so that's why I put an extra $200 in. Okay, now go to page 10. Youth programs, personal service, youth advisor, youth director, excuse me. That was a 2% increase. Personal services, excuse me. Personal services dropped because of the way Kara was able to utilize less counselors. Next year, she's figured in a 2% increase for returning counselors from the minimum wage. Minimum wage goes up to $15.50 next year, and then 2% on top of that. And then she feels she may need a couple extra counselors as they can increase children, so that's an increase there. Broke out equipment for $3,000, pre-camp equipment that she purchased. That was purchased, that's where it came from. And the contractual expense brought it down to 55,000 because of what was used. She feels she may do a few more field trips. This year we had talked about going lower, but she had requested to go back to 55,000 for.
She had 52, but you have
And
3,000
then
for the
3,000.
medical director.
Yes. All right. And the 3,000 for the medical director is split between Sam Lake and Poestenkill. Parkland stays at 1,000. I'm sorry, any comments regarding the youth? Parkland stays at 1,000. Library, there's no $10,000 addition this year. Historian, there was the 2% increase. For Linda, equipment, she said stays the same. Contractual expense stays the same. Senior citizens had also asked for an increase. That's why the additional $200 is there. Okay,
So total on that page is $14,000 less than last year, which is a good sign.
Page 11, zoning. Clerk, Seth, 2% increase. I'm sorry, personal. Bless you. Personal services, excuse me, first line, that is zoning board, and that's a 2% increase there. Second line is zoning clerk, which would be Steph, 2% increase. Ian asked for raise,
Lauren says.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Ian, excuse me.
Okay.
Lawrence asked for an increase for $10,000 from his current rate on zoning.
Lawyers, they always do.
I didn't ask for anything.
That was the reason for the change there. Equipment stays at 100, contractual expense stays at 1,000 for notices, etc. Under planning, personal services, planning board, 2% increase. Planning clerk, 2% increase. Attorney, Lawrence splits between the two. He asked for a total of $10,000. I'm sorry, asked for a total of $10,000 for each. Equipment was 0. Contractual expense dropped because we had figured roughly $10,000 for comprehensive plan costs in 2024, and that has been replaced by the ARPA money being used to pay for the comprehensive plan and for the grant that we received. So that was the reason for the dropping down from 12 to 3, still covers for notices to the papers, etc., for public hearing meetings. Refuse and garbage, contractual expense, leaving at $4,500. Renewable energy contractual expense stays at 0. MS4 personal services, 2% increase for Tracy on that line. Community beautification contractual expense flags staying at $3,000.
Well testing? How many wells does the town own?
All the way around the landfill, and there's a bunch of monitor wells over there.
Off of Snyder's Corner.
So that's a requirement by the EPA.
Correct.
For the agreement that we had to sign, yes. Okay. Next item is page 12, employee benefits. This is the bill. Okay, this is the bill that we received. I tried to send that out to each for 2025. That's due in 2026. Increase brought it up to what, 105.8 as opposed to roughly $90,000 now. That's the reason for the increase on the state retirement. Social Security was figured based on 2% wage increases. Medicare also. Workers' comp, billing that we get now because of the excellent way everybody takes care of themselves and DJ runs highway. Workers' comp has stayed low, disability has stayed very low. Hospital and medical, that is projected at, based on preliminary information we received from Brown and Brown. There's a potential of 10 or slightly more of an increase, and that's what those numbers reflect.
This is 74, so it's a doubling of hospital
Okay.
and medical insurance?
The reason, okay, DJ had been listed under he's under general for salary and other categories, but for some reason he was put into highway for medical.
Yeah, because I receive all the same benefits that the highway guys get for the union contract. That's why.
But the expenditure for his insurance should be in general.
That's why, that's what it's figured.
So we should see a similar reduction in the highway
In the highway
insurance.
side.
Which there was.
Well, as long as you see a reduction there, it's just
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
it
it's
doesn't
just,
moving money around there.
okay. The 74.4 includes medical insurance, it includes the HSA, and it also includes the stipend. So all numbers are into that bit of health and medical insurance.
Because your employee benefits in hospital went from 92 to 77 for highway. So it did
That's
drop there.
15, but this increased by 40.
Because of the 10% increase.
A 10% would be 3,600.
So that would have been 40,000, and now
Okay, but that, okay, previously DJ was listed, was lumped in with highway.
right,
But that doesn't
that
account.
doesn't account for the total
They were only
difference.
losing the 16 for highway, so there should be 16 plus the 3,500, 10%, so it should be around in the 50s. Should be like 56,000.
Okay. I will double check the numbers I ran through and came up and put a 10% increase on base rates for everybody. And if there was an error in the numbers that I gave Betsy, then I will correct that. We have that numbers out to you tomorrow morning. But these are the numbers that I've come up with, is 10% for each current individual receiving healthcare.
Right, but I think what Frank was saying was that 10% compared to the adopted budget, which would be roughly $4,000, so that should make that 40. And then you add
The
DJs,
16,000.
but you only subtracted 15 from the hospitalization and highway. But there should.
Okay, we had the addition of Jason Sager, just recently
Okay,
on the highway.
But that should,
Yeah, but
you're going the other way.
you're going the wrong
Right,
way.
because that should be on the highway budget.
right.
Right, that's what I tried to put. Okay, I will double check myself and I'll have an answer for you tomorrow morning.
So we're not sure if the health equity was properly accounted for in the budget previously, so that also could make up for some of it, not just the medical, and as well as the health stipend payout.
Because I went through and added everybody who DHSA and segregated town hall plus highway, and that gets added, that was added to the medical. But I will double check and go through my numbers again tomorrow morning and put a note out to everybody on workable email on that. Okay. let's see what page. Okay, page 13, we discussed. Okay. Page 14, we discussed. Okay,
I'm sorry, so am I changing anything on 14?
Well, it's not adding correctly.
On the 2025,
In
for
2024,
2025,
2025 is added correctly, 2024 is.
right, so am I changing,
okay,
Any
okay,
numbers
on
on
the 2025 item, the tax distribution, I think we should go to 570,000 based on what we're getting now.
okay,
And
Oh, sales tax again.
sales tax, excuse me for not saying that right. Okay, interest and earnings. I think that should be lowered a little bit, but
I think conservative estimate is not a bad idea. I mean, it's a good idea to do this. Go low.
okay. 50,000, 45,000?
No, I mean,
The 70.
70?
they just lowered interest rates, so we're gonna get lower interest rates as it cascades through the system, but if we get aggressive about treasuries, we'll probably make up for a lot of it. Because M&T's gonna lower their rates too.
I talked with them briefly, and they're thinking on December 31st, we should supposedly be able to stay with the same rates we have.
Not if the feds lower it by half a
Well,
point.
I called on Friday, and I question that, but that's the information you pass back to me.
No, they'll drop it.
Okay,
So we're keeping it at 70,
please. Thank you very much for listening.
and then the youth program is gonna be at 120?
We're taking that back up to 120 instead of 110. Sorry.
The gifts youth program is where the gifts come from. What does that mean? That's not tax revenue, is it?
No, sir, okay.
Is that
Again,
income
I'm
from parents for paying for the program?
Tuition.
Is that what it is, tuition?
Chunk of it is, yes, sir. Again, I took the conservative view, and that's why I put it down to 110. If I'm being too conservative, but I thought it best to try that, go with that number as opposed
120,
to 110.
okay. And then is there gonna be a change to the mortgage check? Should we be keeping that at 75? So now you said you're gonna check on the second check. Do you want,
I
that's
will,
at 75?
I will call the county, again, it was conservatively, I will call the county tomorrow morning, and I'll respond back to you, that's all.
Okay.
Again, I'm just taking a conservative view.
Okay.
Excuse me, thank you. Okay. Okay, highway, I'm sorry, page 15, highway. I put a contingency in there to address possible situations that come up, orders changing, urgent situations, as a security. Okay, street maintenance, as DJ said, he had put down, that number in there reflects just a 2% increase from what the total was for 2024. And as I said, we have to finish with the union negotiations, but 2% is what we're looking at right now. Bridge maintenance, if we go with a bond, and the number we put in here was based on a 20 for Rikers Farm Road, if we do go forward, that number, it was just a suggested number based on a 20-year bond as opposed to a 30-year bond for Rikers Farm Road construction. Numbers that I received from the bank. Interest rates are a little lower now, so hopefully this rate will go down a little bit, but that is just a talking point number based on the bond pricing that we have received. The capital outlay of 113,000 represents the,
Capital outlay is not 113,000, capital outlay is 251. You're skipping around.
okay, I'm sorry.
You went from street maintenance to bridges.
The permanent improvements is
Permanent improvement, excuse me for missing that. I didn't, I should have correctly assumed, DJ, my bad. Okay, permanent improvements, capital outlays, $251,000. Bridge maintenance is 88.4 based on,
So what was the number that the bank that you spoke to gave you for the bond? Is that 88.4 or is that
that's,
the 10,000 we usually budget for plus the bridge bond?
that was, the 88.4 was the amount for
So it's
the,
just the bond, that's not the 10,000 we budget for bridge maintenance.
so I should add $10,000 to that.
you know, what was the number you gave the bank?
The bank gave, okay, for 20 years, they gave us 88,344.
No, what was the number you gave them?
Oh,
That the
900, I'm
project
sorry,
would
not,
cost.
excuse me, I'm sorry, $900,000.
So the number should, just, I believe that,
It's,
I don't believe the project was that high. I thought we were closer to 700, but I don't have the right copy with me.
Okay, I'll check back with you in the morning and I'll call it back.
so increased by 10,000 though, whatever.
Well, we
Please,
usually budget for
I did not,
10,000.
I failed to put that 10,000 in there. I was concentrating too much on the bond. My bad.
Was there any records when the town did the last bridge repairs in 2002? When we did the 3 bridges on the mountain, were they allocated into the highway budget or were they paid for in like a capital project in a different spot in the town budget so that way it wouldn't have to be raised through highway tax? Because that was a bridge bond then. We did 3 bridges at once. Was that budgeted for in the highway budget
I'd
to
have
be raised by highway
to look,
tax?
DJ, that I don't know.
Probably a question that should be answered on where we're gonna
When was that?
get that one. 2002.
2002.
Yeah, we've been Cropsey Road, 56 Road, and Powers Road all done together.
2002.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me either way, but it just, if it wasn't coming out of the highway tax, it would drop your actual highway budget by quite a bit, that's all.
Yes, sir. All right, so I'm talking to you tomorrow morning.
Why was the adopted budget in 2024 50,000 higher than 2023? Do you remember?
Yeah, for the GPI's design on the bridge.
Oh, okay.
We're right this morning.
So that particular thing was in the highway budget.
Yes, yep. Which actually was a transfer from ARPA funds,
Okay.
so.
Okay, let's see. Machinery, capital outlay, 113,000. And that is for 2 items. That is for the 56,000 that we pay in January, release. And then the second item is the John Deere mowing tractor with the boom arm. Those are the 2 items that comprise the capital outlay figure there. Snow removal, the change just reflects 2% salary increase.
You skipped over contractual 0.4 for machinery.
75,000.
So,
That 113, the January 57,000 payment, that's the final payment for that truck, so when we budget for 2026, it should be a pretty noticeable drop in that line as well.
Well, I was gonna ask you is how are the trucks, like, are we gonna need any?
No, I mean, with the cycle we've been going with trucks, we should be probably 3 years before we gotta worry about budgeting for a replacement.
what about lead time, DJ?
Lead time is a question I can't give you an accurate answer for.
Have you heard anything that's changed here or come down?
I don't think it's changed much.
Yeah, we're going to have a mission. Yeah.
Okay. Contractual is staying at 75,000. Thank you for correcting that. Okay, snow removal, personal services, just reflects a 2% increase over 2024 based on reading. Contractual expenditure, 92,000. DJ did a lot of homework on sand, its costs and so on, and feels it can stay the same as 2024.
Yeah, salt went down a little bit with the new contract coming out, but cutting edges and sand increased a little bit, so kind of almost equaled out in a sense. I don't know if you guys, is everyone up there looking at year-to-date or just you?
I've tried to distribute that, I've just finished.
Well, I just want you guys to keep in mind for street maintenance and for snow removal, the year-to-dates aren't really an accurate indicator because we were half-staffed for most of the year. So like if you look at our year-to-date right now for snow removal, that was a $48,000 budget. We only spent $20,000, but I was short 3 guys for quite a while. So I just didn't want you to think that like we're padding it that hard. It's just we were short-handed for quite a long time.
Wasn't much of a winter either.
Same with general repairs, street maintenance. That's a $330,000 budget, but we only 169, 405 as of this week. But like I said, we were short-handed for 3/4 of the year, so.
Thank you for bringing that to the attention of people. Okay, employee benefits, state retirement, the rate reflects the change that in the billing that we received. Social Security, based on 2%. Medicare, and again, workers' comp and disability, compliment DJ, and compliment everybody here in town in reference in keeping themselves safe, which has kept our costs down on those 2 areas. Hospital medical insurance, I have to go through and double check myself in the morning, and I'll report back to everybody on that number, including you, Betsy, to see if what needs to be changed. Okay, on page 17. Okay, correction of the maintenance. I misread DJ's number. That should be 8,000 instead of 3,000 under maintenance for Rensselaer County roadways. Okay, state aid and consolidated highway aid. Approximately the same for 2025 as 2024. Okay, water district. Contingency stays the same for the year. Billing equipment. Chuck, would you be gracious enough to explain the increases on the antennas and so on?
We are still seeing a failure rate in antennas. We had 40 at the last read. It's tough for me to wrap my head around where we are on this, if we are at the peak of failures or where we are. I don't believe any other antennas have been set back. I have 167 now to send back. We have 467 users. If those numbers ring true, we're not anywhere near the top of the curve on this. Antennas are $130 a piece. We return them to the manufacturer. They are supposed to look at them, and if they have been sold 10 years previous to their failure, they will give us a certain amount of money back. If it's past that 10-year period, they will not give us any money back. So like I say, we had 40 on the last read. We had 96 on the previous read. And we are making good headway in getting those changed and fixed. Currently I have 24 antennas left.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay, collection, town clerk and deputy clerk. Those are suggested numbers from Chuck on Sue and Lindsay, based on the work that they do, and assistance in getting the water department building done.
Both great assets, those girls. I think I wrote that down in my notebook the first time I met them. I wouldn't be able to do the job without those two for the building.
Okay. Next side up, we have 811 designee.
This one I went up 1,000 with. I was noted a letter that was written to town councilman Wolbear stating that he should have about 20 a month. I haven't seen that quantity yet. This was from written by Mr. Burnett. So if we were going to start getting 20 a month, I wanted to make sure we had enough money to cover it. But like one thing that's still a gray area for me in all this is I don't put in a time card. You don't know what I do. I could have 20 hours of locates for 4 weeks straight. How do you know that? It's just part of the salary. So in my opinion, it shouldn't even be a line item. Because there's no way to divide those monies up. So, in the case of the salary was increased to 4,000. So it includes being a dig safe guy. But that was increased for an influx, which if you were putting a new water system in, District 2, you're gonna have to be doing a lot of locates. So, on the flip side, we get the GIS in place, it's gonna be like a cakewalk. You'll be able to find everything out there. Everything will be identified. So that's why the increase of $1,000 was. Mr. Haas mentioned, I really don't have historical data. So a lot of this stuff, I was seeing where we were in the year, 3/4 of the year was done, and just adding another quarter to what we had already spent. That was my best, guess. So the dig safe designee reporting, that line item of $2,500, what is that? Me getting back to dig safe with my response to their.
To the reporters.
And how will I divide that money out? What I've done to get some historical data is started the database, including locates, where I have a template. I put down the locates, I put down pictures of what I located, where I was, designations, landmarks, telephone poles, stuff like that, in case something does happen. But, that's what I consider part of my job. So something that I break out into another fee. The legal services, I guess I have to ask Mr. Silverman what he charges an hour. Because I want to know how much $500 is going to get me.
About 2.5 hours.
All right, well, let's hope the gentleman that's talking about having some legal action against the town because of an improper siting of the curb stop on his property we'll get that satisfied in less than 2.5 hours, hopefully.
We'll do our best.
Again, administration, maintenance, not quite sure what that is. Can anybody give me a definition of what that is? Again, I mean, like I say, I started that database, I do it for new permits. You can be part of that, but none of that is divided up.
If you don't know what it is, do we need to have these things?
Exactly.
I'm just,
If I have no way of recording them, I have no way of dividing them out, do we really need them?
yeah, I'd rather not just do it just because we did it last year.
I think it depends if, has anything been charged to that account? The
That's what I was
8310 point.
And we have no,
Yeah.
no.
I can look it up. I don't know it off the top of my head.
So then you can see whether anything was ever charged.
There was a minimal charge.
There was what?
There was a minimal charge.
Definitely ran over a few squirrels.
Okay.
Right there too.
So in the case of the water manager's salary, this shows a 2% increase. What I put in the budget for was an increase of over $30,000. And the reason I did that is because this position needs to be full-time. What I see when I come in here is a district that's not being maintained. I have hydrants out there that don't work. I had hydrants out there that were shut off. As the guys are going around flushing, they're seeing that these hydrants have had zero maintenance on them. You can't get some of the caps off. We, and we'll address the flushing later, but that is I put it in there at 60,000 and hoping that, I want to make it clear that that salary is not for me. I do not want this job full-time. I'm on the fence of how I'm doing part-time here. So I put that up there to be able to get someone that would be able to take the position at that rate. But I see that didn't make the final budget. But I would say to the board, you need a full-time water manager.
I think maybe, I mean, I see it on your sheet for the full-time but it said 2026, it looks like. So
That was part of the question 2025. The system's going in, you need someone full-time to watch that system, the new District 2 going in.
Well, that's what I assumed that it was all about, for the increase of the Water District 2 went.
You should have someone full-time now to manage what you got in the ground now.
Would that be covered under the $5.5 million, at least that portion of it? You know, it's hiring somebody to make sure it's happening who reports to the town.
Well, supposedly that was done on the first two, and I'm not seeing that.
I'm not saying that, but that's, I mean, we have the contingencies in there. I think even 60,000 or 30,000 to make sure that $5.5 million is spent correctly and the system's done properly would be money well spent.
When you had CT mail the first time around and.
I'd rather have somebody.
I don't think you should put that on the water manager, that would be the inspector of the new district.
You can't, I think it's too much.
Yeah, that should be done by an outside service.
Right, but
Together with someone from the town.
Right,
Because I don't know what outside services they had inspected for the first district, but, you know, it might have been the guy with the dog and the cane.
yeah, we don't need an engineering firm that's gonna just charge us billable hours. We want somebody who's gonna,
Boots on the ground.
you know, report to the town and basically
Protect the town.
make sure that we're getting what we want, because
So Water District 2 costs would need to be accounted for separately than on this page here. So that would be on the second, when you get to Water District 2. If there's a consideration to add additional costs for that. So this would just be Water 1.
Water one, yeah, I think that would be the case.
So we'll leave that water manager at the 26,790. Like I say, I think it should be more than doubled, and the position should be, you should put an application or what do I want to say?
Advertisement.
Thank you very much. for that water manager, yeah, a full-time position.
We should maybe put this on our agenda for November or December to talk about that.
Please.
Continuing down,
So I'm sorry, if that's gonna be considered then, and the possibility of having a full-time for next year, we should include it in the
And if we're
budget.
gonna
So
get
even
it
if
in
it's
this
not,
budget, we're not gonna get it in this budget, are we?
It's part of the project.
The extra hours.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah,
Or-
I would leave it on the 2025 budget and put it as part of
Right,
the project itself,
okay.
because it's not dividing it up two ways. There's the ongoing work of maintaining the systems, which might go to full-time after both systems are in place. But what I was thinking just is the money that we might need to cover somebody to report back to the town and watch the project is just gonna be for the project duration,
Construction.
the construction.
For water.
So to overlook. what goes
Yeah.
on. To work for Poestenkill, protect Poestenkill, as opposed to
Protected.
protecting the village.
But when we
Yes.
have two districts going,
Then, but that might be 2026.
right,
Now, currently now, you should be flushing twice a year. You should flush spring and fall. We have $0 in flushing on meter water flushing. I jumped ahead. But I mean, that's just one thing, the maintenance that is doubled there. Sampling, they doubled the amount of sampling for copper and lead. Those are long-term samples. I should say long duration samples that take a lot of coordination with the homeowners because they are supposed to get up in the morning, very first thing, open up the tap, fill up the water bottle, close it, refrigerate it, get it to me. I got to get it to the lab. So it's a lot of coordination, much as the whole issue with the antennas. But I have to have a lot of community support that is, allowing me into their homes and allowing me to change these antennas. Some folks are kind of resistant. It's kind of surprising me. I don't know whether they think I'm putting something in there that the government's going to be watching them or what. I have no idea. But there's some that are not too fine.
you know, if you did that, if you did put surveillance equipment, maybe we'd get the CIA to help out your salary.
Yeah, really.
Or subsidy.
Take all my gear.
so I'm sorry, Jeff, were you requesting something for water flushing? Because it is 0.
Yeah, it is 0, but I kind of jumped around. Let's pick it back up.
Okay.
Let's see, truck fuel. What I did for truck fuel was I put in, about 20 gallons every 2 weeks. I brought the price up to $3.50 a gallon because it'll go up after the election. And I came up with $18.20. So that's how I came up with the 2,000.
So DJ, so when trucks come to highway to get fuel, is there any then billing back? Like, how is that getting billed to water?
Yeah, so they fill out a sheet in the break room and put them in mileage, and then they'll put down water. And quarterly, I send Tom and Katie a Excel spreadsheet that has how many gallons Tracy or the water department has used, and then that's supposed to be refunded back into the highway budget, for general repairs for where fuel comes out of.
So is that occurring now?
I've been filling out the sheet in his
Okay.
office.
I just wasn't aware
What
that
happens after that? I don't know.
that was occurring.
So that's the way I came up with that number. We had to retitle, with one assistant water manager and one water technician. They do not have the ability to work the hours to expend this funds. That's the other issue. I mean, both of these people have full-time jobs. One guy's just a weekend guy, Saturday and Sunday, and the other one is working overtime at his regular job. And if he is going to be making overtime, he's going to be a considerably higher rate than he is here at the town. So he has, there's no desire to come here and make less money. So that's one of the, another issue that we have, that if you put someone in full-time, they might be able to cover a little more of the workday. I'm currently trying to keep it 9 to 1. Today it didn't work. The only good thing about today was working with DJ and the professionalism of his crew. That was the best part of it. So, continuing on, that it reflects a 2% increase. I think I had the guys at 5. I was a little miffed why the water department didn't get any increase last year. Can anybody tell me why that happened? Because that's the first thing I came in here, that's the first thing I heard about, is that every other department had an increase except the water department. Was that because they didn't come to this meeting, or?
That was the decision by the prior supervisor.
They were taken off when Sue and I were taken off because we were doing budget cuts. We never got ahead back.
So not only that, but also TJ and Sue did not receive an increase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's department-wide, they said that.
Mhm. So this, I think, reflects 5% to their hourly rate.
That's 2 for the year they missed, 2 for this year, and 1% for astigmatism. For stigma, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, well, I thought they could see good, right? Continuing down, administration contractual, not even quite sure what that is. I understand that by sitting here, that is something where my cell phone bill would go. Is that true?
Yes.
All right.
So, I guess, again, if $8,000 does that need to be in the budget?
Well, where's the phone bill come out of now?
I mean, that's pretty expensive, huh?
I don't, I'm just using my own
What was
personal
that?
phone.
What was the actual? What was the
I would
actual?
break down.
Oh, you don't have a phone?
Actual in water administration contractual. 82,104, is that what you're talking about? Is your number?
8310.4.
8310.4.
Yeah.
8310.4. I've got a lot of numbers in here, I got no idea where they came from.
So something's being charged.
Okay. I was wondering if tank inspection would be in there. By law, we were supposed to inspect the water tank every 5 years. I have no record showing that it's ever been inspected. So I'm calling up, I've been trying to reach a guy to be able to give me a price on it. It'll probably be something where I'll get a few prices. What they do for inspections now is they put in a remote submersible and do the inspection like that. They don't put in frogmen anymore. Or your other choice is draining the tank and doing the inspection visually yourself. That goes into confined space entry and some other issues.
Don't want to do that.
I had something down here, but maybe I'm jumping around again. Oh, I probably am. Disregard that, we'll go to the next one. So would the, where would the tank inspection be put under, what category? There's no maintenance, so it would probably have to be repaired.
You hope there's no maintenance.
What are the inspections? Because those coatings are expensive.
Well, there's a budget of 20,000 for repairs. Do you usually spend that, do you know?
Let me see what I got for repairs.
And the pumps, that one pump we had to replace was
Yeah.
$5,000.
It's 11,000.
Yeah.
May, I had a bill of about a little under $10,000. I have no idea what for. Would that have been the antenna purchase
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
by possibly?
yes.
Hmm. Yeah, because we got 100 antennas in, the number works about right. And 20538 again. Yeah, so 11,000 has been spent thus far on the 20,000 year-to-date expense.
How much do you think an inspection will cost ballpark?
That's a darn good question, Mr. Haas. I have no idea, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be hampered by not having electricity at the tank.
We got a generator, mobile.
Yeah, we get a generator too. I don't have a clue. I can ask around to other operators. I'll give a few guys a call tomorrow.
Please do.
Mr. Carpenter hasn't been getting back to me. He's, probably in a tank somewhere. So. Repairs with electricity. Again, this was one shot from the hip because I don't have. I've got a number for August, a number for July. June was really low. April and May is 0. So I just like used the number that what we would expended thus far, and then added another third to it, and or I should say another quarter, because we're 3/4 of the way through the year. So that's how I came up with that number. The pumps are running good. I was looking at pump 2 there this morning, and you're only running non-startup constant run a little over 2 amps, about 2.2 amps, 2.8 steady state running with the VFDs. So the current draw and continuous use as well. Lab fees have increased. They have doubled, and the state has doubled the amount of copper and lead. What I did for that is I have to have 12 bio tests per year at $45 per. Nitrates I have to do 4 times. They're $35 a test. Copper and lead is increased to instead of 10 tests, we have to do 20 tests. That's at $50 per. That's $1,000. Our TTHM are a $90 test 4 times a year, $360. HAA, same thing, 4 times a year, only they're $200. So that's $800 for a total of $2,840. I don't know, running these samples back and forth to the lab, that's just part of the job. We don't include that into the lab fees, right? The hourly rate of going back and forth to the lab.
Perhaps you should.
No. The purchasing of water, I did sign something for, I believe it was 96,000, wasn't it, Tom, or something? I forget what the amount was for Troy, but
Troy was 90,
91.
191, and Brunswick was, several months before that, was 21 or 22.
So 130,000. I think I wrote in my report that you guys received that we did receive another transportation agreement. We're gonna have to take a look at it. As workload goes, I really need to focus on the lead line service inventory, because that's got to be on October 16th and not having even started that yet. So that's one I'm going to have to focus my attention on. And after that, we'll go to the transportation agreement and start looking that over. The reason, of course, that was written is because of District 2 coming online. And District 2 is quite a ways away, so I didn't see the priorities in that. We're finally at the unmetered water flushing. Our average in flushing has been between 10,000 and 13,000 in a day when flushing occurs. When I say that is on a, when Brett works that night and he flushes, I can see a difference averaging things out 10 to 13,000 gallons. So I think it's worth being accounted for. If you wanted to do a flat 10,000, for 8 days, I would say 80,000 twice a year, 160,000 gallons, whatever the price of that is. But what I don't understand is who we paying. We're paying ourselves, right? When we flush, you know what I mean? It's running through our mass meter, but other than that,
So this would be just purchasing more water, you're saying, because you flush it and then, so you're saying 160,000
Yeah.
more gallons you would need than,
I don't know what was used in the past.
Or is it really part of the 130,000, a good portion of, a portion of that is the flushing?
It's not divided out.
No, it's not. About
You know what I mean? So
but
it
it has to
sure
be
is.
somewhere.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So some of it is,
Mhm.
so realistically, if we're paying for all the water, we're including it anyway.
Yeah, you're already paying for it.
Exactly. We'll be able to get some better numbers once the GIS is in place, because you can calculate your diameter of water. You should flush about 2.5 feet a second in water flow. So we can calculate that, but again, where, it's kind of the same way I feel about me giving water to the highway department and billing them for it. I don't think the highway department should have a meter. I don't think the fire department should have a meter, because they're part of our municipality. That's just my personal opinion, but they got meters. When I was over doing the TTHM, you gotta let the water run for 5 minutes there, and Don Toniotti's going, man, you're spending my water money. But that's, like I say, that's my personal opinion. Personal water, let's see. Where do we end up at?
Chlorine.
Yeah, I have no idea how that number was so low. That is the only number that I have overspent on. And I
using the wrong chlorine.
well, I heard that.
Cheaper.
Yeah, that's what I heard. They were using chlorine that wasn't certified for water distribution. And, and I heard something about pool shock too, but, it's a pretty simple equation. We're going through 1.5 gallons a day minimum. I put in another gallon raw, middle of this month to bump it up a little bit, but that was after I took the TTHM numbers. But, so you come up to, we get the stuff at Agway, $24.99 for 5 gallon. It's $2,668.93 is what I came up with for sodium hypochlorite at 12.5% solution rate.
Are we buying it back?
Pardon me?
Can we just buy like a pallet of it and bring it in or something like that?
I am going to talk to some suppliers. It's, as a manager, I don't like to have guys do stuff that I wouldn't do. Hauling those tanks into those 5 gallon pails into the truck. The truck has a rubber bed on it so stuff doesn't slide around. So you can't slide the bottle. So you're crawling up in there getting these things in and out. So the last time we went and picked it up, I said, screw this. I took my truck, my equipment trailer, it's got a ramp on it. I've got a bad back. I don't mind using a hand truck down the ramp, but for a palletized load to come in, we would have to, pick that up and get that inside of the pump house. The pump house is on it's a skid. Yeah, I-beam on the bottom of it.
I didn't know we could store it.
So you've got a 10 to 12 inch rise where we'd be able to put a ramp up, and it'd be a heck of a lot more convenient. you know. But we'll see what their prices are.
Do they deliver?
As I say, they probably would deliver.
They can, you know, you're gonna have to get a straight truck in there, you're not gonna go to him.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is there's a watershed at the highway garage, and we got forks for our skid steer. If they get delivered by the pallet cheaper, you get that delivered to the highway, and then bring down whatever you need for a week or two at a time.
I
Save some money.
Yeah, I imagine they probably have a lift gate.
It'd probably be easier too, because then it would always, you'd be there, not back, but
Well, I was thinking of looking at that, as much as I like to give, a local person the money in Agway.
they may sell it as a pallet and deliver it.
Oh, I bet they do.
That's what I'm saying, they might do that already. And
I have to ask Mark, they never heard of that. Him doing palletized delivery of the chemicals. The joy of that is being in the 5-gallon containers, you can exceed the maximum of that chlorine in the 5-gallon containers. You can have more than, I forget what the number is for the DOT, but you can increase that because they're 5-gallon containers. So, but at a gallon and a half a day, go through it at a decent clip. And that's what's keeping our residual about where we want to be.
So the 2669 really just brings you up to 2024 current prices. So possibly an increase for that for 2025.
Well, we could. I can't remember the last time chlorine spiked. Well, I know when it was during the pandemic, because everybody was cleaning.
Okay, so maybe it is reasonable at that.
Yeah, you're right. I don't have much of a buffer in there. Yeah, I guess 2750 and because like I was saying, I was 2668.93, and that was pretty close. So you can go up with that. Transmission, total distribution. The benefit stuff I know absolutely nothing about, as well as the debt service bond payment, all of that stuff. It's and numbers somebody put in there.
That's what we pay each
Or
year.
breaks.
certainly.
The 148,100 is what we pay each year on water district line.
All right. How long is that guy?
I think it was 30 years.
30-year bond?
I think so. I don't know when they took it out, 2010.
Approximately 2010, 20,000, 2009.
Any other changes from what Chuck said?
The question I had was, where would I be putting membership? I found out that our memberships, our software support has not been paid in quite some time. We're not a member of the Rural Water Association anymore. I'd like to call those guys up. They can do really good leak identification, and they have other assets that we don't have. Mueller software has not been paid for our support of the software to read the meters remotely. I thought there was one other one, but I did not write it down. I was just thinking about it. Where would we put those?
Or the administrative maintenance.
Would that be administrative maintenance?
I think
Administrative
contractual.
contractual.
Administrative contractual.
So I don't know if that 8471 covers everything you just said.
Okay, because rural waters, we just pay. Okay,
Yeah,
that
we
was
just paid that
250.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one. You're exactly, and I didn't know it was in arrears. Yeah, I got the bill and they said it'd been a year overdue or something to that effect. It was.
They have a lot of training too.
Yes, they have very good training. Yeah, and that was the other thing. What do I put training under? Because for my certification, I have to go through a certain amount of training. I don't know what my duration here will be if, if any of the training comes up. We usually do the one at the half the century house. Do that one? Yeah, I missed that one this year.
It would come out of that same,
And that would be the same thing,
Yeah.
contractual. Okay, good.
so I don't know if that covers the 80, right now it's 8471.
I have no idea what the training fees are, to be honest with you. So what would be training to?
Any possibility you could find out about training fees?
Yeah, I'll ask my son. He should know. He's a higher class operator than I am. Class C, I think. I'm not quite certain what it is, but I'll find out. These are our revenues. So metered sales, I take that as what, we okay with flipping the page?
Yep.
Oh, okay. The benefit unit charges, I have not,
That gets calculated after the revenue and sales or
good.
the expenses are determined.
So I haven't wrapped my head around that one yet. So what are metered sales? What we bill people, correct? Anybody?
Yeah.
Right? So
The quarterly
Quarterly
usage.
billings.
Right.
what I would like to do is go biannual for the billing, but I'm very hesitant to support that in that we still have meter antenna failures, where I can get 40 of them in this quarter, knock a bunch of them off, and then get probably another 40 next quarter, rather than wait and get 80 of them at once, like the first quarter of 96, when we had 96 this year. So, but I don't like the postage expense, the labor expense for Sue and Lindsay, having that to be done every quarter. I have to get a better handle on what those expenses are for mailing and what for billing. What is your guys' opinion of quarterly billing versus biannual?
I like the quarterly billing. It helps stay on top of situations,
Mm-hmm.
and at least right now, to get better feedback. If we do have an antenna problem, it will take longer to address, and being responsive to the residents. If there is a problem, get it taken care of. That's my concern. Sue, do you have preference either ways?
Well, my concern is payment. We're doing it quarterly. A lot of people are not paying. If you do it just twice a year,
Biannually,
yeah,
it'll be even a bigger number, and
Exactly.
we're less likely to pay. One thing I want to add is we have 476 users. We have 27 accounts in arrears.
how many?
27 out of 476. We actually have 479, but because when the initial district was proposed and rolled out, you pretty much gave away the farm. I mean, you gave away meters, you gave away bars, you gave all this stuff away. There's 3 homes that I've found thus far that had bad meters where they are not hooked up to their water. They've got this free stuff. They hooked it up with the service line and it sits in their basement. Usage 0.
So I thought the arrears then would
We do-
go on the,
Yeah,
on January.
we sent out letters,
Yeah.
so if they're not paid by October the 25th, they'll be
They
re-levied.
actually go on
Property
the January
taxes.
tax bill.
Yeah, so that goes to the county and we're made whole, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, that's the way to do it. Out of district, should we be promoting that? Do people know they can sign up out of district?
It's only one little pocket of town that has that option.
That's all.
It's just because of our water tower on Hinkle. There's
Goes
Main
down,
running
pipe
through
goes
there.
back down past.
That's the only out of district users you have.
That's it. And then Hinkle, far enough away, it's spread out, or we really don't have any contamination with the wells or anything, so, yeah, I would expect them to hook up. All right. Metered sales at 123,000. That is what I'm supposed to be bringing in. So 123,000 divided by our 476 users, you come up with the average bill of $258 per year, divide that quarterly, and it's about $64.60 per. When I see this sheet of what our last bills were, very seldom do I see a bill above 60 that has not been paid. Most of them average in the 40s, 50s. We have a few outstanding that we know we have problems with. Two houses hooked together with a leak between them. One of them is quite high. So that is what we need to make $123,000.
So what are you saying, that more of reality, that number is?
I don't know if we make that. I don't know what our proceeds are. Initially, early on, like first couple of weeks, I asked, are we solid? And the answer was, we don't know with the antenna situation. It's because we're estimating a lot of meters. So
Based on the numbers that you do have for bills that go out and people that pay, what's actually coming in?
Betsy, I have no idea.
Oh, I thought that was what you were looking at there. the
I'm
totals.
doing, these are all failed antennas.
Oh, okay.
That's what this is.
The quarterly billing, what it
Yeah.
is, 126 to 30.
For 476
76
People?
users.
450, the people that are paying.
Approximately.
So what does that look like for?
110.
For the year?
You think the average is 50?
No, between 26 and 30 a quarter.
Oh, really? Oh, well, we gotta charge more for water.
Yeah, we did.
Heck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
There you go.
Well, that-
It's going up, brother.
that brings it to about half, really, yeah.
So half of 123?
Yeah, we can only get better from there. What do you think it's?
So is there plans to increase the rate, the use
I
rate?
propose we look at an added 25 cents a gallon per thousand.
Well,
I'm
if
sorry.
we keep going though, we've got to look at the rest of the numbers because you dropped a lot in the meter sales too. So you got your tap fees and meter sales, whatever, from 12,000 to 2,700.
The meter sales, I think I have not been able to get a price for a Mueller ME8 meter. No one will give me this. The wholesaler only the manufacturer only deals with the wholesaler for pricing. So I'm gonna have to buy some meters to find out what the price of a Mueller ME8 meter is. I think the price that I'm just going by what Brunswick was. I think they were $3 1/4 for a meter, and we, I believe, are 250.
275.
275. One thing I know we're losing on that I've researched is the bar fee. What we call the bar, which is a meter combination. I'll keep talking loudly. Meter combination with a backflow preventer. So
I keep that part.
this device we sell for $200, and The price,
Costs us more to put together.
it was, what we were getting for a price in 2017 from HD Supply, which is now Corner Main, was $234.38 without that coupling. That's a $28 coupling there. So that's for a 3/4 inch line. And the price was considerably more.
Do they assemble the whole thing that you see there?
I have all of these parts.
No, they don't assemble them for you.
They came in a box.
That price includes the meter?
No,
I was gonna say, yeah.
this would be divided out. But
Yeah,
the antenna, we don't charge for, so they get the antenna for free. We need the antenna to be able to read, to be able to bill. But these are a loss.
You can't have them.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, we can afford it,
But I would like to see an increase in those prices between 3/4 inch and 1 inch. The 1 inch is more in a commercial service application. So that is one way I can see in boosting profits.
Can we step back for a second? You said you get about $30 a month per household
Per quarter.
per quarter, so it's 120 a year. Times how many pay their bill? 460
Or 76 we have right now.
that pay?
Oh, that pay?
It'd be 476 minus 27, so.
So we're getting around 50,000 a year in water revenue?
Not a year, no. Quarterly, we get between 26 to 30.
Well, I multiplied it out, it ends up being $50,000 a year.
Times 4.
No, that's
including
including the 4.
That's 450 times
Oh,
4 per month, that's $30 each.
Yeah,
And that's what Chuck was saying, there's no way that you're at 123,000.
but we've had that in our budget for at least several years.
Okay, looking at an earlier budget, it's actually, it went down.
What's the,
Okay, so far this year, we've collected 73,000 and change.
I'm sorry, how much?
73,000 and change we've collected so far this year.
where are those numbers?
Those numbers are what I collected and what I gave to the,
Okay, so that's it, so we have to dig, so is there any way we could get an actual list for expenditures for 2024? Because I feel like this is all just guesswork.
Because that's the problem with QuickBooks. And
No, I know, but I mean, can we just at least do like a trial balance or something like that? And just,
Well, that's what we would normally have gotten.
well, right now, we don't have the reconciled stuff, but like the expenses are in,
The expenses are in.
so that's half the battle. I mean, so we could just see what our actual expenses are for those accounts.
How much you spent.
I mean, this is just,
I guess I'll send that to you. I've updated.
it's not from a spreadsheet, it's from QuickBooks.
Yes.
Okay.
But back to the water meters, I mean, you budgeted 122,000, but we're bringing in 70, 60, 80, so it's a $50,000 shortfall.
No, that's so far this year. Billings just went out again now for,
Is there one more billing or two?
one
One more.
more, December.
So
That's
it's 75,
3/4,
so it's
it's
100,000.
100,000.
100,000
short. But that would make you have a loss compared to your expenses because here they almost match. Subtract 20,000 from your revenue, now you're at a shortfall of $27,000 or more. So
You're short of the way around with your
that would require,
meter sales and caps.
that would require an increase in.
With the
water
numbers,
meters.
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
the benefit unit charge as it
That
is,
stays the same, right?
with the numbers, without Chuck making any changes, with the numbers that I had, the water benefit charge last year was $355. And just based on budget numbers that we had, it's going up to $382. Given this revenue numbers and the expenses we had, if we change those, increase the expenses, reduce revenue, it will go up even more.
People are gonna flip.
And the thing with water, I don't know what the current cash balances in water, but there's not really a fund balance to pull from where we were talking about with the general fund and highway, where you could at least pull from that.
There's no accumulated surplus in water.
How can there be? If we've been missing,
Because we haven't
if
moved
it.
we've been losing, there's probably an accumulated loss.
So we would probably have to increase the water meter amount, the bill.
Back to the well.
And I don't know, you'd have to calculate it out. I know it's 25 cents.
Right.
What's
It's
that
just
gonna
a-
do?
Gonna make a difference.
Right, is it the right number?
What's the rate now currently? Does anybody know?
575.
$5.75 per thousand?
Yes.
You have to almost raise it by 25%, really. 20%, 25%. Those three.
Well, realistically, everybody's paying for it anyway. Someone's paying for it.
Because what happens, for example, last year, when some of the funds were commingled, and we had to make the water bond payment, things like that, that water was still having expenses. We didn't have water. We didn't have cash for water. We had to pay that out of general fund. So the town's overall still paying for the expenses that are incurred. But technically, all of that needs to come from water, and it should be then water owes the general fund
Right,
for
should be a-
reimbursing expenses.
Or you could have the town hall overpay for the water that they're paying to subsidize it.
You can charge, right,
There's another way of doing it.
the town and highway more money.
Because they can't be the highway, they're smart, they start on the well. They're still on the well.
That goes $27.
And that's gonna be transferred.
Yeah.
What are you doing? So you're washing your car that much?
So I think that if you're gonna increase it, whether it's 25 cents or whatever the number you decide, that has to be done through a formal board meeting and vote, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to include an increase in the budget at this time, if that's gonna happen before we're done with the budget documents. If you wanna do an estimate to include that.
I think we should. Maybe I'm missing something, but I think we definitely should put an estimate in there.
So when there was a shortfall in the water, the town made up for it. Did the water ever pay the town back? That's allowed? No. Okay. So we can't do that. So that's a question, I guess. to
Well, it's
maybe
gonna be that, I mean,
Make
technically,
you
they
feel
should.
like you're here for a reason.
I mean, at some point, they're supposed to pay that,
Right.
because it would just continually stay on the financial statements for the general fund, due from water.
As a debt,
Just
basically as a
Due
debt.
from water, it'll never go
Balance, yeah.
away until they pay it, and then on the water financial statements, it'll say, due to general fund, like, it would be a recurring.
As a
debt.
running, as a debt that stays on their books.
Yeah, liability.
So eventually, like,
Wow.
in theory, it should be resolved, but I guess technically you could keep it on there forever, but obviously it's not
And
something.
this was
we wanna
last
do.
year?
Yes,
So how did that, does that happen at a board meeting? How does that transaction occur?
I don't remember that one.
if they don't have money.
Yeah.
If they don't have
Was there a
money,
budget transfer?
then someone makes the decision when they're doing bills if they're still gonna pay the bill, or you don't pay the bill. If the bill gets approved to pay and there's no cash,
remember this?
So
in-
we transferred at some point in time.
Do
right,
you remember it?
No.
I don't either.
because last year there were no budget transfers.
So there were no budget transfers,
Money is just spent.
but there was a budget transfer. I'm just.
It wasn't technically a budget transfer, the money was just utilized.
And it still is on the books that they owe the town.
It was never
It's not
recorded
on
in
the
the
books
books.
if it wasn't transferred.
So it doesn't even show the debit and credit or whatever.
No, that's why we don't know the actual fund balance.
So no headlights, no brakes, no engine, and we're actually driving in reverse.
So it's things like that, that's like,
Downhill.
Certainly downhill towards a lake.
so it's things like that that Katie's trying to resolve in QuickBooks, like all of these bills and.
I actually don't think it's very funny at all.
No, it's not funny, we're not seeing the
It's
humor.
not funny at all.
This is funny.
What's that?
sort of,
You're not seeing
It's
the humor
actually,
at all,
no, I
are you?
actually don't see the humor in it. As somebody that's been
Well, it's,
actually doing this for almost 4 months.
it's what's called gallows humor.
So
Yeah, I get it, I get it, but it's not funny.
So I'm really
As somebody that's
thinking,
been doing it for 4
No.
months
no, I understand.
and gets a lot of questions. It's not funny.
So
We're
I-
trying to recover, there's like. I mean,
We're working very,
numerous-
very hard to
You
recover.
know, I know that.
I know that you know
I
that. I
really-
appreciate
I
your
really
support.
want to know, like, well, this is all great, this stuff here that we're doing, but what can we do to help get this resolved in a reasonable time frame so that we're not, hire, like, do we just give Katie and Betsy the authority to hire some people to get this done? Because it's just, no, I'm
Yeah, so
asking-
Frank, right,
I'm
so,
asking Tom to say, can we give them the authority to get this done so that we can get it done and get some real numbers? And because we just can't.
If you don't have enough people to do a job and you have more and more work happening, you fall further and further behind.
Right, just
That
keeping
is-
up current.
That's what I'm
can I speak from a personal standpoint
Yes.
as somebody that's actually been living this for 4 months?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be very frank, and I apologize Tom, in advance. You might be firing me tomorrow.
We're on YouTube, so try not to.
Okay, no, I won't swear. I think from my experience and the professionalism of the office and working with Tom, there's been a state of shock in actually realizing how poor it has been managed over the past 4 years. That is all I'm gonna say. And I hope that you are aware of that. The Tom and I have been working very hard.
So the question is, how do you fix it?
Right,
Correct.
I'm aware
Do
of
we
that.
have enough money in the budget to pay for an accounting firm to help out?
Yes, we do, and we have.
We've been talking about this for 7 months.
Yeah,
Again, I'm gonna go back to the shock
no,
Okay.
of
I,
mismanagement of trying to figure it out.
Right, but
I agree, though it's not,
it should be fixed, so
and it's not,
we have options.
it's not Tom's issue, it's not your issue, it's not Betsy's issue. It's the issue that we have in front of us right now. And if I meant, that's how I feel.
No, and I know that,
But what do we need to do to dig out? Because we're, like, as Dave said, we're just doing the day-to-day stuff is either we don't do that or we do this, but we have to do
Right,
both.
we have to do both.
And,
right.
and we don't have enough, you can't work
There are enough people.
65 hours or.
Well, and
you're still
Tom
not even gonna
made
get done.
contact today with,
And Tom doesn't have the time to do that either. I mean, to
Mm-hmm.
do the actual work. So we need to get whatever we need here. And I think that's,
I think part of it too, like I said earlier, like not only just like, what are my duties, what am I expected to do, because it seems to be changing, but also Katie's, like, because, her predecessor before that, like, the amount of duties that were piled onto that
Did not.
position,
and we're not accomplished.
yeah,
I
well,
don't think that Katie should be again responsible for all those same tasks again.
So we need to get somebody in here.
Okay, I have been trying to get somebody in for better than 1 month. Finally been able to get some action moving on the gentleman. And Katie is sending information out
Right, we've taken
tomorrow
care of it.
that we've
Yep.
done, and he's taking a look at it to start.
So do we have money in the budget for it, and how is it gonna be accounted for?
We do, okay, we'll have,
We had 20,000 contractual from way back when it was supposed to be with Jesky, and that got spent though, because they didn't bill correctly or something, right? So
It was-
we
I
don't
think it
really
was
have
very
anything in that
questionable.
line item.
I I don't think there's much left. I think it was 15,000.
It was 15,000. that we paid recently.
I think we're just, I mean, this is something we have to do. It's not.
So if we get a quote from an accounting firm that's satisfactory to everybody, that this is the assistance we need to get this done before the end of the year,
That's what yes,
we could possibly do another budget adjustment
Yes.
resolution so we can pay for it.
yes.
For the 2024 budget, but I don't know if will it be completed by the time the 2025 budget needs to be?
Well, that would be
in?
the objective, the goal.
Right, and I mean,
You're not gonna make it.
right, the 2025 budget needs to be in by
Just second.
Well, we're gonna have
Election
to,
day. But, yeah,
the week of election day.
Yeah. Tentative usually by the end of the month.
Right, tentative now, basically, but
I
the
think,
adopt,
I think the 2025 budget is gonna have to be a little bit, based on a lot of estimates.
yeah, there's nothing we can.
We can't fix that in time for that. There's no choice. But we should get everything else fixed, and if we have to spend $25,000,
Because even the
Yes.
tentative one, you have to have in now October something, right?
the ten-
By the end of this month,
yeah,
actually.
we can't get everything
September.
fixed before the
By,
budget. It's gonna
by
have to
Monday,
be
by Monday, the
estimates.
tentative needs to be.
Right.
I thought we have another meeting for every night.
Do we have, an idea how much our fund balance is? Like, nothing.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do
I
we
mean,
have,
like extra money that's available.
yeah, like, what our fund balance is outside of the budgeted, or whatever excess money, like where we transferred from the fund balance, 300,000. Do we have a number, as rough as it seems, for what's available? Because that's gonna be key, from what you were saying.
I went through some of the budget line items with Tom the other day, possible areas where extra funds could be pulled from that were not utilized. For example, earlier when we talked about the assessor's budget, so there was money set aside for 2024 for that potential senior housing project. It's not gonna happen this year. So that's extra money that was set aside for that. That's not gonna happen. Granted, that's only 5,000 or something, but it's like some money. So each of the line items in the budget would have to be reviewed to see if there's pockets of money that was set aside that will not be used between now and the end of the year.
So when we look at QuickBooks now, when we used to get like those reports every quarter, that's up to date enough that you think like that we're gonna be able to see
I don't
what's
know.
you can see the expenses. It's because deposits haven't been
right,
made.
but at least we
I
know.
mean, deposits are in the bank. It's
Right.
just like where they fit in.
Yeah,
Right,
they're just not fully.
They're just, right, you just
Yeah.
can't pull, it's a lot, there's a lot of negatives.
right. So, but now at least you have the expenditures in there. So if we budgeted, say like 10,000 and we only used 3,000, we're gonna be able to see that.
Right.
Great, that would be, then we
Well-
can compare it to our,
Well, the budget is to actual in QuickBooks. I don't
What
know
I'm
if the
thinking
budget,
is-
the 2024 budget is fully in QuickBooks. So that would have to be entered in to run that
Right.
report to get the, actually,
Last-
or you'd be doing manually.
Last year, we had a treasury that we put in for 12 months, and that was 1.8 million. Is that correct? Do you remember that?
I don't remember exactly, but.
The one that came due in
February.
Yeah. So unless we've spent like a drunken sailor, we should have in the neighborhood of $1.5 million to $1.8 million available in that range.
So I did explain to Tom
Wasn't
that a
that number the-
rough
the
way to
line
find out what the fund balance is, to take the current cash, usable cash,
Right.
accounts, because we have a lot of accounts that can't be used, right? The ARPA funds, escrow, things like that.
the district funds, yeah.
And then determine what bills we're gonna have to pay between now and the end of the year.
Right.
To get a rough estimate. That's just using cash, it's not determining what's in QuickBooks to get that.
Yeah, that's basically like just a simple
I
cash
think
to
they're
say
like,
it's,
right,
it's between 500,000 and $1 million or whatever, because that way we can just get a budget done.
Well, it's gonna help you determine, like I said, you're gonna
Yeah.
need, well, you're not gonna, if you want to not raise taxes or not raise it as much, you'll need to pull something from fund
Right,
balance, and you'll have a general idea of the amount you're working with.
right, just want to know whether if we're talking $500,000 to pull from the fund balance, it's like, do we have $500,000 to pull from the fund balance, period?
Yes.
Okay, payroll roughly up from the year.
Just to ask a question, that 1 point, what was it, 1 million, that,
1.8.
wasn't that all together though? That wasn't just general? It was all three lumped together?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So I mean, just to put it in perspective for you, highway spent $840,000 year to date, so.
Right, but we also got massive amount of revenue in taxes in January, and February.
Well,
So I'm just talking money that we didn't have to use at all.
I think what.
No, right, I'm just saying, I'm not so confident we have as much in there as maybe people think we do.
Well, I think we had some big tax bills this year and some other things that we didn't, that we should have paid in prior years, and so that's what I'm saying. I don't know that it's.
I think what Betsy said is, right, just figure out what we're gonna spend in the next few
It's a
months
cash
to get
flow.
to their cash flow. There's gonna be an amount that's left over, and then
I just wanted
the
to check
revenue in our projected budget, and should come up with a number.
Right, like what we definitely know,
Right,
our monthly
and that's
bills
as
and
good
then
as,
the bond payment, like all the things that we generally know, and then potentially a cushion for things that may come in.
But we also are gonna get some additional revenue between now and the end of the year as well, from different government sources.
I don't know if that's coming in before the end of the year.
There's one more sales tax payment. Okay, roughed up figure through the end of the year, payroll, roughly $225,000. We have the 148,100 for the water bond payment. We have $90,000 for the state retirement that we have to pay. General, roughly came up with 72,200. Water payments came out to like 202,000. And highway, based on last year, was roughly 95,000. Those are numbers that I've come up with.
So what's our total that we're spending?
Frank, can you go ahead and calculate this?
you're just reaching the middle. Okay.
225,000. 148,100 for the water bond. 90,000 for state retirement. And this is based on last year's information. 72,200. 202,000, 202,100. 202,100. And say 95,000. Yes, sir.
832,400.
Is a reasonable guesstimate from now to the end of the year.
And that's expenditure.
That's what it's showing for.
This unexpected tax bill, is that substantial?
No, for,
You said there was that IRS issue?
right, we paid 70,000 in January, but there's still going to be
We have,
interest and fees for late
Right.
payment.
That's what I mean, is it gonna be over $10,000?
Yes, I think so.
we could, talking to the lady from IRS, Ms. Webb, she explained how there is a one-time one-time program where they would give us a
Waiver?
a waiver, I wish we could skate. Like a waiver
Yeah,
on
let's
on penalties and
Penalties.
interest might not go, but she goes, you could ask for that, so we might be able to get some type of penalty and fee charge reduction based on what she had to say.
For the first,
But they realized that they had not applied it properly. It's in the second quarter, it should be between the third quarter and fourth quarter. But I'm gonna call in now 2.5 weeks just to get an update on
I guess what I'm saying is when we figure out this cash flow situation, is this a significant expense that we have to
well,
also
they sent us
factor
a
in?
bill for 129,000, but they hadn't applied our 70,000. So the rest of it was
So it could be
So-
$50,000, $60,000.
So some of that we may get waived, like Tom's saying, but not all of it will be waived.
So then
Let's
that's,
say $50,000, just worst case
I
scenario.
put 60, so it'll be
Okay.
890. 890. And what do we have
In the bank.
in the bank?
In the MMA account right now, we have, $1,000,001.
June just printed it out today, I think, right?
No, I don't know. I don't know.
And
And
that's
then- and we
excluding
also
the
have-
water district.
No, I'm not talking.
The MMA,
We
money
have-
market fund
We have
is
the money
1.1.
market fund, we have general fund, we have, the highway fund, we have,
She's got it.
we have payroll, we have a little bit payroll, we have a little, accounts receivable. Right now, the main funds are the MMA and the, general fund and the highway fund.
And I think, Tom, didn't you say the rest of the ARPA money
And
needs
the,
to be
yeah, right,
transferred?
the ARPA money too is,
The rest of it needs to be transferred though, so it's in that balance that needs to come out that you can't consider.
How much is that?
30,
ARPA right now is 131,400, let's say.
Right, but in the
But you don't-
MMA account, we have to transfer some money to that.
Right, because you don't know like where you're at or what wasn't allocated.
Didn't we have our own account for the memorial?
Yes,
right,
we
that's,
did.
That side of it
that's
all.
totally,
So what do
that's
we have in
totally
the,
separate.
we have 1.1 in the,
Because you'd have to take out
MMA.
your CHIPS money, the monument money, the ARPA money. The MMA save, if we just looked at savings, MMA savings, 5793, you got 1,000,003.
And you need 800 and some thousand.
and so is there any other, you said general fund, highway fund, is that all part of the same account?
Well, because you'd have to get rid of the water districts. There's two accounts for water district, and there's account for water district 2. There's escrow for the drainage district. Highway. So all you really could look at would be like the savings.
The 1.3.
Yeah.
So is that the only,
Not 1.3, 1.03, right?
1,000,003.
Or 1,003, okay.
one,
What, one-
1.5?
1,300,000.
1,354,000.
Okay, so according to that, like if you just did those rough numbers, you're talking, including the 60,000
IRS.
IRS, it's a fund balance of 450,000, does that make sense?
Less, what I'm saying is there's still part of the ARPA monies that haven't been transferred, is my understanding.
Right.
Tom does those, and I don't know the balance on that. But there's a portion that is included in that 1.1 number, I think, or 1.3 number.
Right.
I'm not sure what the amount is,
It
but
hasn't gone to the ARPA.
that needs to go to the right, to the ARPA account. I don't know what the balance is, but that needs to move, so I would,
So it's
whatever that
1.3
is, needs to be
minus
subtracted.
Minus
the ARPA money.
130.
no, not 100. No. The 130 is a separate account. altogether.
Okay, so that's all separate.
That's all
But
separate.
there's additional money that has to be looked
It
into.
didn't get moved into there, they should have.
How much is that?
I don't know.
30 to 40,000.
Okay.
So we're at like 1.3.
Okay.
So your question before you started doing the math was what?
An estimated
How much we
number.
got?
How much, what?
How much
what
will
we
we have at the
for-
end of the year?
Well, a fund balance, so basically, if we need $500,000 to have no tax increase, and we have, in rough numbers, 400,000.
Right.
It-
Plus additional
I'm-
revenues that are coming in from sales tax.
Okay, right, we didn't look at the revenues that are coming in this next,
But you only got one
Quarter.
quarter.
better than that.
Well, true.
So we do have roughly 200,000 in general fund right now. That would be utilized to,
Okay, so 200,000 is another, so 1.3, 200,000.
and then there's money in highway to pay their bills. About 200,000.
Okay, so 1.3, 200,000 in the general highway, and EMMA, and then there was an expected 200,000 for sales tax or something like that.
I'll say 130,000.
Okay, so we'll just say 100,000.
And we're not getting any more mortgage tax for the year?
I believe it comes in December. I have to forward double check on the time on that.
Well, I mean, you just added 500,000 between the general fund, the highway fund, and the estimated sales tax is 500,000, so that's $1.8 million, which would be $900,000 more in the general fund, or not, fund balance of 900,000, very estimate.
I don't think we should burn $500,000 though.
I'm not saying, I'm just, yeah, just trying to get the
Paying
numbers.
tax increases, we should chew up the $500,000. And we have,
Investments.
and we'd be running it into the same problem the following year.
Right, because we're at a,
And there's not really that, I didn't see that much room to cut anything. Anything substantial in the budget. Well, if we can have slightly firmer numbers for the Thursday meeting, maybe we can get closer to getting a preliminary budget done.
yeah, I mean, with the expenses that we have, if we can just compare and make sure we're budgeting, maybe some will go down, some will go up,
And get a firmer amount of the unexpended balance that we'll have available.
I'll do my best, and I'll get numbers.
So can we just go back then to water one? Am I making changes to this, to page 19?
Can I just ask one question or request? Under the billing, you have the town clerk as 6,800 and the deputy town clerk as 3,500. Could you take 1,000 out of the 68 and put it into the deputy town clerk? She does all of my reports and all of my Excel spreadsheets, and she does like 75% of it. So she's very deserving of that.
So the thing with the water, the big question is, do we reduce the amount of revenues that we're actually getting?
So was there an agreement on Sue's?
I think we kind of decided that.
Sue's thing, I have no problem.
I
with Sue's
think
thing.
if Sue wants to,
Okay.
that's fine with me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Yeah, thanks.
And
So
just, I'm sorry, just since we're still on that with Lindsay, so increasing Lindsay's pay for
To
this
40.
year, for the 2024 budget, can Katie then do that for the next bi-weekly payroll?
I think we have to have the resolution
Yeah,
first.
do another resolution.
Okay,
Yeah.
so after the next meeting, yeah.
After our October 10th meeting, is that what it would be?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Dave.
And then we'll include that in the beginning of the year meeting.
But for now, like Betsy's saying on page 19, we gotta take down the revenues, right?
Yeah, if it's not accurate,
At $50 per quarter, I come up to 95,200 for revenues. If the average fee quarterly is $50.
It's, well, I think Sue was saying between 20 and 30. quarterly.
Not people
Right.
That's what we get billed quarterly,
About 20 or
26 to
30?
39.
So 30 is the high, 30
you
is
must
the
give
high
his
end.
dogs lots of
I'm
baths.
thinking your two neighbors have piped in here.
See, we got a raise.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk for you.
It's true.
It's a battery. It's just a battery? Okay.
Yeah, it's a battery.
Can batteries are expensive?
I figured 50.
Right. Can you find out,
A quarter?
from whoever does the purchasing of that?
Just as a number throwing out there,
That's
if
Joel,
we
right?
increase
Get her
by
Joel
25%, we're going to
or-
$7.18 per
I'll find
cents
out.
per 1,000 gallons.
I think that's all it is. Okay, good.
We'll
Thanks.
stop at 535.
My feet don't wet, oh, shit. So you said we brought in 75,000 for the year in water?
73 and change, 73.
And that's over 3 quarters. So that's
Maybe it's been the forwards.
roughly 100,000 for the whole year. I think we should drop the revenue down to 100,000. That's what we're bringing in.
Yeah, we're not gonna change it for this.
Not gonna come up that much.
But that's gonna knock 20,000 off of the revenue.
Just doing it now, then.
So what type of rate increase would make up for that? Well, 25%, right?
25% would get the current rate of $5.75 per 1,000. That 25% increase would be $7.18 per 1,000.
How does that compare to other municipalities? Do you have any idea?
Of course, I gotta go home and check
Ask
my.
Ian. He just
I can tell you
commented.
what I pay in Troy, and it's probably double that
Really?
quarterly.
Yeah, we're
And in
pretty
summertime,
So the
it's probably-
rate per gallon is almost double that?
my quarterly bill is usually about over 100. In the summertime, it's close to 200.
And we're getting our water from Troy.
Right.
So,
I have the sewer as
So we're
well,
marking it down.
it's the sewer
I guess,
part,
you
so I don't
So-
know what that adds up to, but it's,
Is it worth evaluating, doing an increase? I don't, at 25%, people freak. 10%?
Oh, we need to make sure that we're charging at least a payment.
right.
You know, whatever that is.
Well, that's the problem, because this is pretty much lining up with, well, that's Tom's job. So for our next meeting,
Yeah, well, we
I think
figured that
Tom's
out,
got
Tom,
enough
didn't we? It was
jobs.
like 55 cents that we had to come up with, or we weren't making, what was that number?
Okay, right now our cost between the two sources is
$55 cents,
$5.54,
something like that.
okay?
and we're charging,
$5.75.
Yeah, that's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I know you pay for the fuel.
so would you mind working out between now and our next meeting what it would take to balance the water budget? Because I think that has to be done, because we can't subsidize it.
You gotta remember, it's only a day in between.
Tom's fast.
I think he's got,
That's not a super huge.
well, I mean, it's 25%, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it really
But
what
are
you
the
need to
stores
go
the
through
same as
and?
benefit unit charge?
It would have, no, you can't, if you change that, people would definitely flip out.
So right now,
Just the rate charge.
with the
usage.
numbers not decreasing the revenue, it's going up from 355 to
That's
$382.
$30 more.
Just because of the, right, all the other costs, now we're saying we're reducing revenue.
Gotta charge
Yeah.
more.
$355 to $382. And then you're gonna add on top of that, which is not the income.
What are you gonna do? It's gotta balance, right? The water budget has to balance.
We can't keep losing money.
Well, we can't, because we're not allowed to transfer it.
You're not allowed this. That's right, the water district from the rest of it.
Right, I mean, you could do a transfer, but at some point, right, it's never gonna be paid back.
Well, you'd have to,
It would be
you have to
continuously
charge,
on, right?
you'd have to charge more than enough to start paying it back.
And maybe minimum. Some people get a bill, it's like $7 75 cents, $2, maybe a minimum of at least $5.
At least to cover the stamps. maybe.
Yeah,
Right.
no, seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people have what?
A water bill that's literally nil.
Why?
They don't use it.
They don't use it, or they're bypassing the meter?
I've had no evidence of bypassing meters. I've had times that I thought I would see it, but there has been no evidence.
So they have wells and they're using the wells? Huh.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, the rate is per 1,000 gallons, so they're using a portion of the 1,000 gallons
Got it.
per quarter. Okay, so that's Water District 1.
Yeah.
There's still Water District 2 that we didn't really discuss.
Get out.
I know it's getting late, but I don't know what. Tom,
Well, is any of it gonna be ready for 2025?
well, we're still gonna have expenses.
I thought construction was starting in 25.
Right, we won't be pushing water through.
So where's the construction budget here? Do we have to have a construction budget?
Yeah.
So
I will,
Because if we don't have a construction budget, then we can't spend any money on construction. Right?
Yeah, which is where you were gonna pay your water manager to oversee construction, right?
It's not construction.
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna, he was talking about going full-time, so you have the water manager
I
plus
was-
the third party.
Well, no, but
I was
not
not
you.
talking about
And
going
no,
full-time.
I know not you, but like another person.
No, but
So you
guys
have
were
like-
saying you wanted
Yeah.
to have somebody that you trusted to represent Poestenkill. That
Yes.
was
Right.
part of the construction cost, and that would.
Right, well, that should be part of the construction.
Construction budget.
And I'm just saying like that you have to have like the water manager in there then too.
Right,
Plus, like,
because
the
the water
overseer.
manager is right now coming out of District 1.
Did the Burge give you a budget for next year?
they gave us what the cost estimates were, and,
For construction
yeah.
or preliminary towards
Preliminary
construction?
work, yes. I'll be on the phone with you tomorrow and get,
And we also have money from the county that
we have the 600,000.
will be paying for this construction. In other words, I'm trying to, if we don't have to raise any of the money by taxes or anything else for the construction project, it would really require for us to have it in the budget for that. I mean, I guess.
How's that
how to do
happen?
that. Yeah, how does it happen?
And I don't know if it's.
So right now, the water district 2, you only have 34,000 in like M&T. The other money is invested in treasuries.
Right, but that's coming due pretty soon. We do have to budget it though, if we want to spend it next year, no matter what the source of the revenue,
Right.
correct?
So you've got to make sure, like, when your treasury is due, that you.
No, I don't mean the cash part of it. I mean, in order to be authorized to spend the money, it has to be in our budget for next
Yeah,
year.
so if we're gonna
Yes.
spend $500,000, we need to put it in there, and then we're gonna say the revenue is the, whatever we have in
Is
the
the funding
account.
source.
Right.
So we have to have a construction budget or for whatever we're gonna do next year in our budget, correct? All right.
I've given Betsy some rough numbers, and I will go reissue those again to you, so you can have them for Thursday night, before then, and a program for 2025.
No, you don't, as far as I know, drink coffee, correct?
I'm opposed to stay with them.
I think you
You
should
better
start.
start.
I think you're starting, I'll bring coffee over.
One more thing. About getting an external accounting firm to do
Yes.
contact services, so I think I would appreciate, and as well Katie would, if we knew what the plan was for the tasks that they were gonna do versus what Katie and I are gonna do, so we have an idea. Because like I said earlier, you know, my job duties and tasks have been really undefined.
I think it's a good start. They should reconcile all the bank statements.
Is that something that, I mean, if you've got the entries in, they should be able to do that without bothering you too much. Is that true?
But you don't have the deposits in.
No, I mean, we've got to get I think we're gonna have to do the deposits because it'd probably be too much to give them. And then they can just do the reconciliations.
Of all the bank statements.
And I think it's really kind of be two things, like what's your job description between now and the end of the year, and then what you want to do as part of your normal job that fits into the hours you're supposed to be working.
Right, the going
And-
forward, yeah.
yeah.
Right, so I
That's-
appreciate both of that being
Yeah,
defined and cleared, because right now it's not.
no,
But
it's definitely not.
you probably know that better than anybody though, for what you have to accomplish.
Well, I
By
know
the
the
end of
things
the year.
that need to be done, but right, so it's like, are we gonna get the accounting firm in by the end of the year based on the money we're just saying we have available?
I don't think we have a choice.
And then, right, and then when do they start? And then, right, what's, the conversations with Tom are usually like, what's the next priority? But then is the accounting firm gonna, if they're gonna do the bank reconciliations, are they gonna do them next year? Is that gonna be a long-term thing?
I think it should be a catch-up thing, that starting next year, since everything is hopefully ironed out, that would be part of the regular thing for people who work here.
Like, let's say
Like any business does it.
we
Well, that's what
between-
Betsy's original,
Right.
Duties
But
was
getting
fees.
caught up is the hard part.
right,
And then also consolidating these bank accounts.
Because if we consolidate the bank, like in January 1st, we're gonna have, let's say, 4 accounts. Part of your job would be to reconcile those accounts and do X, Y, and Z, I guess. And that would probably be best to come from you as to what you could finish. And then if there's stuff left over that you and Katie cannot, don't have the bandwidth for, then that stuff, maybe we have to sub out the reconciliations or something that would make sense. Because if I were to make the decision, I probably would make the wrong decision as far as what would make sense to keep here and what makes sense to farm out.
Okay,
My opinion is a bare minimum is somebody come in, we're a team, and reconcile all the bank accounts going back. You gotta get that straightened out. So if you can get estimates on how much that's gonna cost, then maybe we can do a budget resolution and authorize paying for it.
Yes, sir.
I guess one of the things is just if they can give you an idea of when they would finish rather than start.
We're saying what would be needed to get it done by
Yeah,
such and such a date.
that's like, I'm not thinking it's $10,000, I think it's going to be a lot.
25,
I was
Could
thinking
be a
about
lot.
oh Jesus.
I mean, because you're gonna be asking people to come in and get it done in this particular time frame. It's not gonna be cheap.
And then that's assuming if they're just gonna do like 2024, will I be available, to do January if I'm still doing the annual financial report or the state reporting or, other things. So that's why it's like I'm kind of asking for like more defined as to,
I think we're going to have to utilize somebody past January 1 on reconciliations as we catch up. And if Betsy's able to devote more time to, say, the annual financial.
right, because like if I'm gonna be doing the budget, as you know, right, this goes through like early November.
then you're not gonna be working on the financial.
Right, that's not gonna
Right,
happen.
that's not gonna happen.
Because I'm still doing the state retirement reporting, which, like I said, it's gonna be due this week, and they constantly have things throughout the month that they need, so, there's the ongoing work, and same with Katie, like, there's still the day-to-day stuff that needs to happen in addition to the catch-up. So I just wanna be realistic about it, like, yeah, that they can come in and they can get 2024 done, but, will I be available January to to start with the reconciliations if I'm still doing other things.
Well, that raises another question, is that would it be better just to hire another
Another
person?
person.
I was just
to
thinking,
Increase our staff.
I was just thinking that too, like, is there like a retired CPA
Well, it doesn't have to
or
be, just,
somebody, well, because in a sense, it's gotta be because we want them to start Monday.
right.
That's-
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like-
Right, you need to have the skills.
You know,
A retired
somebody
person who can step in
who
temporarily.
can say, hey, you wanna work for 3 months or 4
Right.
months? And then that way they're working, they're not working in some office, just calling you up every day and annoying you. They can get the files themselves, they can access QuickBooks, they could do that, like, there's gotta be,
I mean, at one point, there was discussion about having a backup for payroll and bills. Because again, that's not gonna be something I'm always gonna be available to do. So if Katie's not available and I'm not available, then that's not getting done. No one else is able to process payroll right now.
We started that last year and it got shut down.
So those are the two options then, is hire somebody. But either way, we need authorization on the budget.
maybe can we put, I don't know how this happens, can we just put an ad for temporary CPA help or something like that?
Take it forever to find somebody.
Yeah,
There are also temp
I agree.
agencies too, but that's expensive.
I think that might still be
It's worth looking at.
worth looking at
Yeah.
here.
So do we want to do a budget resolution for, town board meeting? To authorize the expenditure of who knows how much money we're gonna need for additional.
Well, not
bookkeeping
to
help?
exceed over this year.
What do you think, Tom?
Yes.
Like 25,000? What do you think?
Just thinking,
Hey Betsy,
Yes.
what do you think of a wage, like bookkeeper kind of person that could reconcile compared to like a CPA, which probably isn't necessary? So if we're talking about,
For the bank reconciliation, yeah, I don't necessarily think you need a
Right.
CPA to do
Just
that.
bookkeeping.
A good
So like
good
what's
bookkeeper, yeah.
a good bookkeeping wage that we should factor in then for a resolution? For money?
So I don't know what the going rate is,
Yeah.
honestly, for that. I mean, I know what we were paying with Jesse, which was $100 an hour, and that was a discount. And they were just doing bank reconciliations.
Is it worth trying to contact temp agencies and seeing if we can find a temporary bookkeeper
I think that would be,
who can step in pretty much right away?
We'll make a phone call and see what we get.
I think that might be.
Budget amount, 25,000?
Let's see
Between now
what-
and the end of the year,
Let's see.
or see what they say
I'm sorry, for 2025 or for?
for 2024,
To get through.
get through the end of the year.
We'll make phone calls.
Okay. Sure you don't want to learn how to make coffee?
Sue, should I stay with some coffee? No? Okay.
Start out at 4 in the morning.
Mhm. Thank you very much, one and all. Appreciate your time and your input.
Okay,
Deeply, deeply appreciated.
thank you, Tom.
Is it really?
Deeply appreciated.
But you didn't think it was gonna be this long.
Exactly.